We'll call the meeting to order. Welcome, everyone. We respectfully acknowledge that the community of the municipality of Highlands East is located on the Treaty 20 Michi-Seegag territory and in the traditional territory of the Michi-Seegag and Chippewa nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaties First Nations. The community of the municipality of Highlands East respectfully acknowledge that the Williams Treaties First Nations are the stewards and caretakers of these lands and waters in perpetuity, and that they continue to maintain this responsibility to ensure their health and integrity for generations to come. And just before I open up the meeting, I'd just like to say that we had a great loss in our community yesterday at the passing of Sharon Stoughton Craig, a very dedicated employee, in my opinion, ambassador for the municipality, and she will be missed. Disclosure of pecuniary interest. Seeing none. Agenda.
That the agenda for the special meeting of council of February 17th, 2026 be approved as circulated.
Someone move. Councilor McKenzie, second by Deputy Mayor Ryle. All in favor? It's carried. Operation Budget Department Overview. General Government. Brittany.
Thank you, Mayor, and good morning, members of council and staff. So here we are today to discuss our first kick at the can, our first draft budget for 2026. As we discussed previously in our capital forecasting, we understand that times are tough and dollars are tight, and we're certainly trying to do our best efforts to stretch the dollars as best as we can. But there are some costs that we can escape as well and increases. So we're doing our best to be productive and forward thinking while not the costs of the taxpayer. So today we will go through each of the different departments and their budgets. The department heads will come up and answer any questions that you may have in relation to their departmental budgets. We did provide a draft sort of an overview and a highlight document, which is what we'll be kind of referring to for the majority of this morning. And if there are any questions in relation to any of the specific accounts, by all means, happy to answer any questions. And at this point, we'll just get started and to our general government. General government consists of our council and finance and admin staff. And so I'm just going to share my screen. So moving into 2026 on the revenue side for the general government, council will note that we did receive an increase in our OMPF funding. This is our block funding from the province. We received $267,800 additionally in 26 over 2025. So our total amount this year is $2,404,100. Also in our revenue for this year is the inclusion of the municipal accommodation tax, or the MAT tax, through the STR licensing program. Last year, we never attributed any monies to the program because it was our first full year in operation. Kind of gave us a baseline to try to figure out how much monies we were looking at going to be receiving. So now that we've got 1 year in, we have budgeted a total of $40,000 this year, with also the understanding that 50% of that revenue is generated and transferred to the Municipal Services Corporation prepared by the County of Haliburton for our tourism purposes. Council will also note our sale of shoreline road allowance revenue. This is reflective of our current pricing that went into effect in 2022. On a rolling average, we typically receive approximately 10 applications per year for the purchase of our shoreline road closures. The revenue quite drastically increased in 25 with the implementation of the STR licensing program. because again, through the program, you're required to own your shoreline road in order to have any sort of shoreline structures or if you had any encroachments on them. Also included in that account is any of the temporary fees around the temporary encroachments. So the revenue was higher in 2025 than what we projected, and we aren't anticipating quite as high as revenue in 2026 as we continue working on the STR program. In the gas tax funding, it previously was gas tax funding, now titled the Canada Community Building Fund. These are federal funds allocated to us each year. So for 2026, our allocation is $125,433. We did not expense last year's amount in the same amount of money. We are going to be utilizing those monies towards finishing the Glamour Lake Road Extension project and utilizing this year's towards the Hadlington Road reconstruction project. For our contributions from reserves this year, which is we previously discussed at our capital forecasting session, these are monies that were previously raised in prior years or monies that were not utilized from capital projects in prior years. So this year we are looking at moving $50,000 forward towards the municipal office design project. We have $37,500 coming forward to utilize towards the 2026 municipal election. $15,000 that we will be utilizing towards our website migration project. $200,000 towards our new financial ERP system, and an additional $10,000 towards integrity commissioner costs, and we will only move those forwards in the event that those are required. If council has any questions on the revenue side before I jump into expenditures, happy to answer those, or we can jump into expense.
Questions or comments? I have one, Brittany, the OMPF funding. Is that not supposed to help us offset the OPP costs?
We're able to utilize our OMPF funding for however we see fit. There is no restrictions on how we utilize it at this time. The $267,800 will help with the $131,000 increase in our OPP costing, but there's also the additional costs that go up for everything else. So while our OMPF funding did go up, there are other places that decreased as well. I think the counties actually went down this year.
It did.
Yeah.
Cease?
Yeah, I kind of did most of my analysis from the larger report. So I'm going to kind of ask the questions and hopefully I get them in the right place and we'll go from there. So I'm referring to the detailed one. And so I'm looking at a line that basically says taxation revenue. And it talks about in 2025, the budget was minus $205,000. And in 2026, it's a positive $225,000. What does that mean?
So under the taxation revenue that you're referring to, Deputy Mayor Ryle, so the negative, those are actually revenues. And so we show it as coming in, it's just an accounting format in Excel. So these are supplementary tax bills. So when we have building permits that are closed off and you send it for supplementaries, these monies that are being budgeted here are the taxation amounts for supplementary taxes.
So if I'm misunderstanding it, so when you get your impact evaluation at the beginning of the year, if it changes mid-year and your taxes get adjusted accordingly, then this is where that information or that dollars would be accumulated.
Yeah, if you had a building permit, say you built a new house and you finished it off and then MPAC came out, reevaluated, you would get your supplementary tax bills for the past 3 years. Those accounts are in here for supplementary. You also have your payments in lieu, which are payments from the province for land such as landfills, MTO garage. So we receive monies from the province for those, and also penalty and interest on our taxation accounts as well.
Go ahead, Cease.
Okay, so saying on the same thing, we've sent something called transfers and recoverables. Again, there's a negative number of 333,500, and then it converts in 2026 to 403,000 positive. What exactly does that mean?
What that means is that in 2025, we budgeted that we were going to utilize $333,000 from reserves towards offsetting expenditures.
Mhm.
And in 2026, we are looking to utilize $403,095 from reserves towards offsetting capital projects in the 26 year.
So my question would be, why is one negative and one's positive?
I'm not sure which in the version that I'm currently looking at, they both have the negatives in front of them.
Okay, in my version, which I printed off, it doesn't. The 2025 has a negative, but the 2026 has a positive. Is this just a typo?
It must be because, like I said, it's just an account, the way we have it in accounting standard or for Excel is just the revenue shows as coming in as a negative, and then the expenditures are a positive, so that when you net the difference between the revenue and expenditure, it tells you what the net impact will be to the taxation.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Other questions so far? Really?
As we just move into our expense side under general government. So for council expenses, our council remuneration bylaw is followed per bylaw 2025-24. There is a 3.5% increase in 26 over our 2025 allotments. This year in our Manulife group renewal, we did see an overall group benefit decrease across the entire corporation of 4.87%. We are projecting through discussions with BFL Canada, 6 to 8% projected increase in our insurance costs. Again, we won't know firm numbers until closer to July once our renewal is up for is come due. But these are just projections based on the market as they are now. Council will also note there is an increase to our council cell phone plan, and this is just to account for new cell phones that are required for mayor and deputy mayor in 2026. Under the administration finance expenses, you will note there's again the 3.5% wage increase based on the negotiated union contract. So the wages that are incorporated in administration and finance includes all administration and finance staff. And for 2026, this also includes wages for election support staff to assist with our 2026 election, as well as a records management summer student who's going to assist with hopefully our electronic records management program and also paper copies. And we did apply to the Canada Summer Jobs Grant to hopefully assist with offsetting those wage expenses. Again, just the overall note of the group benefit decrease of 4.87%. Our administration conferences and school account, the amount is on par in comparison to our budgeted amount for 2025. We are looking to schedule some additional training for staff. Last year, we took customer service training and we also took some leadership training, which was really beneficial for our staff and department heads. So again, this year we're looking at doing some different courses, but in the same manner. Some of those being conflict resolution in the workplace and also handling difficult conversations with tact and how to have those conversations. So just that we think it's always important that our staff are always working on our skills and we can always be learning every year over year. Again, our general insurance increase has projected. You will note that there is an increased cost to our software licenses in 2026. We are currently utilizing quite a few software programs to assist with our day-to-day functions. So our software licenses include our financial software. So we do have Diamond Dynamics GP, which is our current ERP system. And then we will be moving into our new Sylogist Business Central platform. We have our website hosting fees. We have fees related to our EV charging station, accessibility software, digital signature software. We have StoneShare, which is our new electronic data records management system, as well as our PSD Citywide maintenance manager and support fees for our assets. Our IT costs are on par for 26 as they were in 25, and those IT costs are provided to us by the County of Halliburton. Council will also note there is $50,000 allocated to the 2026 municipal election this year. These costs includes our contract with Votes, which is the the provider who will be providing us with the internet and telephone voting contract. It also includes any amounts related to data fix, as well as additional support and equipment or supplies that are required to run our election. On the capital project side, again, we have our municipal office design project for $50,000. If we are successful in our grant application towards the EV charge program for the electronic vehicle chargers, those monies are being shown in our budget. If we are not successful, then the monies are not spent. And again, we were just utilizing a transfer from reserve in order to pay for that money in the event that we weren't successful. So we weren't raising more dollars from the taxpayer. Facility rentals automation. This is our second iteration to fix some of the concerns that we heard from the last go round with regards to additional email addresses being added, as well as in the inclusion of our arena bookings this year. We're looking to migrate our website onto our new platform and also completing the new financial ERP system. And lastly, we will be doing a contribution to reserves of $5,000. And this is just in the event that if for any reason there was a cyber insurance attack, we would have some monies available to us in that we could pay up front in order our portion that's not covered by insurance reasons. So those are some of the main highlights for administration and finance, but happy to answer anything in relation to other expenses.
Great. Thanks, Britt. Just a question I have, and that's probably hopefully a good one, but why are the group benefits?
Well,
So-
some of it depends on the age of your portfolio, and we are getting some younger employees into the program. It also depends on the number of your short-term disability claims or long-term claims, and some of that is pooled. You also have to look at the usage of your dental and medical. So some of it has gone down. And to be honest, when we did our when I did the discussion with our benefit provider, he was actually quite shocked to see such a decrease. It's not very common. So kudos to us on that.
Mhm. Sure. Questions? Please.
Yeah, I was just going through it. I think this has got to do with appropriation and distribution, but when we talk about the licensing, for instance, under the council section, we're being charged with $998,000 and $9,975. So I'm going to assume, and correct me if I'm wrong, that's our portion of the licensing being accounted to, and it follows set in all of the various departments as we go forward.
Yes, so the monies that are attributed to council software licenses includes our Civic Web platform for iCompass to host our agendas and our minutes. It also includes the monthly Zoom webinar licenses that in order for us to host our online meetings. So those are software licenses attributed around council function.
So if we were to want to know what exactly we're paying in licensing, we would have to add them all up. Is that correct? Is there a number in here that kind of gives us an overview of how much we pay in licensing per se across all of our departments?
If you were to go to the first tab of the budget, there is it's kind of a summarized review, and you can see where there's council licenses, admin. There's nothing, I would have to pull each one and go through and add them all up for you. But the summary at the front also shows the total licenses per department, and then we could add them from there.
The reason why I'm asking is because there is an opportunity. I can't think of the right word, but opportunity seems to work for us as an individual municipality and across the five governments that we have to consolidate that kind of stuff. So it would be nice to know if there are other people using the same licensing programs that we are. And in the same time with that, by combining those, would it result in lower licensing fees for us? Or are they just plain fixed based on the software manufacturer?
So we have seen this before. We are on quite a few similar softwares across the county. We did StoneShare, for example, which is our electronic data records management software. We did an RFP for the entire county for that one, and we are all on the same platform. Again, some of your licensing fees vary depending upon the size of your organization and the number of licenses that you require for your employees. Some of the other nuances, and these are things that we are looking at in-house as well. It's not ideal to have, 20, 30 different softwares because it's really hard to be savvy in all of them. So are there areas where we can look to maybe start combining some of our other softwares into some that we already currently utilize? And so we're looking to do that right now with even bringing in our new ERP system, and as well as PSD Citywide. We understand that those two programs talk to one another and they're able to pass information on to one another. So those are things that we are looking at doing. There are other opportunities was our website, for example, when we did the website migration. All of us are on the same platform, and there was some savings in going to together and doing some of the migration work at the same time. So we do look for some of those efficiencies where we can.
Cease?
So would it be safe to say, I'm asking because we're really early in 2026. What you're talking about to me is just the right thing to do. I mean, how it sorts itself out will depend on what software and who's got what and all that stuff. Do you foresee that we may be discussing that as an opportunity that has already happened by the end of 2026 and ready for the 2027 budget?
This is also a topic that comes up at our DTWG, or Digital Transformation Working Group. We have individuals from each of the different municipalities that sit on that group that came out of the digital strategy. And this is some of the work that they are also working on, looking at the different softwares and who has what, and are there areas where we can maybe look to align. So I can go back and see with our DTWG group what other projects are in the hopper for 2026 as well as we move into 27.
So we should be looking at something coming forward as recommendations before the end of 2026, looking into 2027.
I won't say for sure, but it's a possibility.
Okay. The last question in this area was in relation to they're kind of spread in different spots, but I think you answered this already. So I think, and that is when we're talking about the appropriation, for instance, on the website, we've accounted 60% of it to the municipality and 40% to council. I'm not disputing the number. I'm just wondering if that percentage makes sense.
Most of it is with regards to either we're posting for public notice of meetings or council minutes. So it's just in the way of there's the total amount, and then 60% of that, is it relation to a council related function or is it an admin function? So right now I believe it's 60% to admin, 40 to council, which actually is a pretty fair allocation.
Okay, thank you.
Angela?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I missed this, obviously. Could you just explain what the council other services on the expenses?
Sure. Can you give me an amount?
20,000.
Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies. Yes, this is legal account. So the $20,000 allocated for legal expenses. So we do have $10,000 in there for in the event if there was ever an integrity commissioner complaint that came in, an investigation that was done. Again, those monies are only spent if there one comes in, and we would utilize transfer from reserve. We also have monies in there for any other solicitor amounts that may come up for our general solicitor fees, as well as our closed meeting investigator as well.
Any other questions? Please.
Yeah, there was one I meant to ask. It's just the definition that I'm looking for. What are assets under threshold? Because it appears in many places.
Assets under threshold are assets that are under our $5,000 capital assets. So assets such as computers, hardware. So they're under that threshold of considered capital.
So would that include some of the more, like, for instance, if we had a PA system in a community center, would that be something you would classify, or is that something else?
It's also just a classification based on our FIR for auditing, like for auditor purposes. It's the account, it's considered your council assets under threshold. So these are your computer hardware and software. So is the majority of what these assets are.
So it's really a thing required in order to meet the auditing programs.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Any other questions? If not,
Okay, if not, I believe we will now be moving into fire. And if we can have the fire chief come
Chris?
with us.
Morning, Mayor Burton, members of council. Before you have the summary for the fire department. Starting off with the revenue, in 2025, the department saw a reduced revenue due to the non-issuance of burn permits, which is a good thing, and minimal accidents along the highways, reducing fees recovery. We've reduced the 2026 budget to address this. What was not reflected at the time of this report is we did just receive our first return from Firemark regarding a structure fire from last year, which returned us another $15,000 in cost recovery. So I hope to utilize that more this year. Ontario grant money is expected for 2026, 79,497 through the Ontario Fire Protection Grant to purchase items to address cancer prevention or lithium ion firefighting. We have received those funds now. Transfer from reserves are unspent funds from previous budget years for fire hall upgrades, include projects from previous years or funds raised in previous years towards vehicle purchases. Funds include 121,500 for JAWS replacement, 3 sets, 69,000 for Highway 28, almost 21,000 for Highland Grove, 25,000 for Monk Road Fire Hall, and 34,000 for Wilberforce Fire Hall upgrades, and 32 for Highland Grove. And then also 30,000 for a side-by-side replacement and $100,000 for a rescue truck replacement. Those were all funds raised previously, nothing new added there. On to fire expenses, or do you want to ask any questions?
Is there any questions? Go ahead, Chris.
On to expenses, there's a 3.5% wage increase as per the negotiated union contract. Additional noted increase to wages, as this is the first year with both a fire chief and a deputy fire chief / training officer for Highlands East. Ensures optimal coverage and helps distribute the administrative workload of the fire chief. Overall group benefits decrease of 4.87%, which I think Brittany already addressed. General insurance increase of 6 to 8% projected over 2025 cost through as per BFL Canada. Increase to the fire conferences schools account as there will be an additional training requirement for the deputy chief role. $10,000 toward hydrant replacement or repairs as they may be required throughout the year. That's an annual cost that we set aside for that. Slight increase to IT for 2026 with the addition of the deputy chief role. IT costs provided by the County of Haliburton. Capital projects, I think we addressed above in the transfers, but it's all the same. 121 for the Jaws of Life, 5 sets of bunker gear every year, cancer prevention grant, and all the fire hall upgrades and future vehicle replacements. And their contributions to reserves is for the same future replacement of SCBA's, future side-by-side replacement, pumper, 2 pumpers, and then also a tanker and the rescue. And then an additional deputy chief vehicle as well.
All right, thanks, Chris. Questions? I just, I'm pleased to see some of the planning and some of the time you've taken for the planning ahead for different projects and vehicles, et cetera. Cease.
I got 3 questions, Chris, and just one of them is probably not going to get an answer today, so I'm fine with that. On page 14 of the, we talk about fire points and hourly training, and that's $82,500. And then it says, it talks about discuss options for going to hourly. Now, I don't want to do that today, but is there a thought that we would be going from the point system to an hourly system, or is it going to be tied together?
There's not a lot of departments still using the point system. The point system is beneficial that we know what we're spending at the beginning of the year. It has been discussed just through recruitment and retention aspect that it may be an incentive for somebody to join if they see that hourly wage, but working it out, it's a very similar cost. It's the additional hours on scenes that would change that. So it's certainly something I could bring forward in more detail to a future meeting that council would entertain it. But
I wasn't asking that. I realize it's not going to change the $82,000. It's just a question of, and I hear what you're saying, could assist in recruitment, could be doing a lot of stuff. I think that needs to be done when you're ready to do it. So I'm not pushing on that. The other line that I have is fire, gas, and oil. In 2026, we actually we budgeted $15,000 for that. And in 2025, we budgeted $22,000. So we've reduced that significantly. Our 2025 actual was 14,000 and change. So my question is, we're only going to allow ourselves $350 over what we actually spent in 2025, and we get a new deputy chief coming on board. So I'm wondering, is that number, should we look at possibly adjusting that number slightly? Because you could end up here with, I can't see anything being less than what it is in terms of calls and stuff. So you're going to end up spending basically the same amount of money. Are you really comfortable with the $15,000, or should we add a little bit to it to maybe split the difference between the 15 and the 22?
so our biggest expense as far as fuel was the fire chief truck last year, which we've since reduced by 1/3 due to going from the F-250 to the hybrid vehicle that I'm driving now. So that's where a lot of the savings is coming from. And I believe we've addressed in a different account additional mileage for the deputy chief for this year. So I think we're safe to leave it where it is. And it is all depending on fuel prices as well. So if there's a steep increase for a big portion of the year, that may put us over. But at this point, we're pretty safe.
That's one of the things I'm having a problem with. We've got all of these expenses in different places, and when we're trying to accumulate them to get an idea of what it's costing us, I did not know that. I'm assuming that was the number. And what you're saying to me, it's only a piece of the number. There's other numbers. I'm assuming then in this, there's no cost of fuel for the actual vehicles that we use for prevention itself. So that's not in this, obviously not in this 22,000.
No, so the only other place that there would be funds for fuel would be additional mileage if the deputy chief is called in after hours. And it's not for prevention. It's not for his regular 8:30 to 4:30. It's only for additional hours after our normal working day. So we will address that the following year by possibly purchasing another vehicle, depending on how the funding works out. If it's not worthwhile for us to go to a full use vehicle for him, then we won't. We'll just continue to pay mileage after hours. But that's something we'll address after analyzing it after the first year.
So you're comfortable with the 15,000?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, moving on, Chris.
Thank you.
Please.
Yes. Thank you, Mayor. I'm just going to do a couple of notes here in relation to the police and the policing expenses. So for 2026, our monthly billing amount is now $110,425. Our monthly billing amount in 2025 was $99,482. So the province did cap our 2026 increase at 11% over 2025's costs. So that is an increase of $10,943 a month. So our total annual policing costs in 26, our contract is $1,325,103, or it equates to an increase of $131,316 over last year's contract costs. Also, in our policing expenses, we do have $4,600 budgeted for our portion of the Bancroft Police Services Board costs in 2026. There are no additional monies required for the Halliburton Police Services Board, as those are covered through the County of Halliburton. And just another quick note as it relates to the Conservation Authority. So we have an increase of 2.07% over our 2025 levy amount. So the required amount in 2026 is $82,062. And the increase is being attributed to the cost of living allowance for staff wages and ongoing operational expenses. And those costs are provided to us by the Crow Valley Conservation Board, for us to pay twice a year.
Okay. Questions? Please?
I have a couple of them. One of them, I pretty well know what the answer is going to be, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Do we ever find out what the hell we're paying for when we give them $1.1 million? Do we ever get anything back that says, this is what you paid for, or do we just pay the bill and have a nice day? Because we went through this about 10 years ago, trying to get information as to what exactly we were paying for. And we had a hard time getting that now. So for our 1.1 million, what do we get?
And you're referring to the OPP contract?
Yeah.
Yes. So when we have our police services boards meetings as well, I do believe that statistics are provided to us. So you are paying for obviously the wages for the OPP officers on the ground. You are also paying for the call outs. So whatever the calls are, depending on what the call is, there is an apportionment that goes towards whatever it may be, whether it be a theft or if it's something, a domestic. They all have different cost allocations to it, but majority of those costs are, the boots on the ground, the actual police officers themselves.
And that was very well done, Brittany. Cam, did you have a comment?
That's my understanding as well. There's a flat rate that we pay per population maybe, and the other is based on the number of calls
Calls
in
per
the
service.
municipality.
So
And
basically,
we do have a record of that.
okay. So basically what we're saying is we have a bill to pay and that's the end of it. So in terms of what I'm trying to find out and people are asking me is like, what does Highlands East get out of it? Like, what do we get for the money that we pay? I mean, obviously there's a calculation which we can't change that says if you've got X number of households, that's the way it's going to work. But when it comes down to the boots on the ground that you were talking about to handle specific situations, is that across Halliburton County? Is it across the entire district, or is it related to Highlands East?
Yeah, these contract costs are specific to Highlands East. And so Dysart will have their own contract costs, Minden, Algonquin Highlands, the same. So, and again, we have coverage. Highlands East has coverage. You have your Bancroft, half the municipality is covered by the Bancroft side. And then you also have half of us that are covered by the Minden Halliburton side as well. So.
And some of the costs in there too, Cesar, like each of us are different and our wants and needs are maybe different. And I can use example that maybe here we focus somewhat on traffic. And I'll say in Dysart, they want more boots on the ground doing up and downtown.
But the question I'm being asked, and I understand that, I have no problem with it. But the question I'm being asked is, do we know what we're getting for that? It's like if we need more traffic control, I get that. That makes sense and it's perfectly good. So what portion of what we pay is related to that, or do we know? Or are they telling us? Because at this point in time, we don't seem to know what we're paying for, although we haven't got a choice. I understand that. If we don't pay it, they stop using here. But I was just trying to find out, is there any way either through the police board or something like that we can get more information on what we're getting for our dollar.
I'm gonna say yes, and Cam, if you want to help me out here, go ahead.
Yeah, through the boards, one of the functions of the boards, if we think there are issues in our municipality, obviously, we don't have a downtown that needs foot patrol. But if through the cottage associations, we get a lot of complaints about excessive speeds on the lake or too close to shore, then through the two boards, which Mayor Burton and I sit on, we can bring that to the detachment commander's attention. And it's a pretty good chance that we'll get some increased enforcement with those issues.
And see, if we can get the report that I get, and I'll certainly share it with council. It has it broke down somewhat.
I think if we could get that, Dave, that would be,
Yeah.
that would be a good thing, because then we'd be able to answer some of the questions as to what we're actually getting for our money in it. And we're probably getting something for our money. I'm not saying we don't, but I'm just saying that's the way I look at it.
Okay. Any other questions on, Cease?
I have one on the, related to the Crow Valley. Now, I'm pretty sure that it's not going to get impacted in 2026, but I have people that are asking me, so I'm going to ask. We know there's going to be a merger. There's going to be a significant reduction by a whole pile. That's going to change the overall structure of conservation in general, and it's going to apply to us specifically. Do you feel that that's basically not going to happen in terms of the financial impact in 2026? And would it be something that we would be looking forward in 2027?
Yes, so for 2026, when we were putting the budget kit together, I had reached out to the Crow Valley Conservation just because of the talks that have been happening across the province. I have been told that for 26, there will be no changes, and the monies that are being put forward today are what we will pay. It's unclear right now what 2027 is going to bring for us, depending on what comes out of the province and their decisions. Mayor Burton is our representative at the Crow Valley Board, so I'm sure this is a topic that is going to come up quite a bit in 2026 as we move into.
But there'll be no change
In
for
2027.
2026.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Okay. Moving on.
Okay, so we will be moving into building and ask Colin to come and speak.
Okay, good morning, Mr. Mayor and members of council. So I have my operating budget for building for 2026. First off, we've increased our building permit revenue slightly from last year. Our permit numbers appear to be holding for 26, and we're kind of, other than the uncertainty with tariffs and whatnot and the cost of building, we're hoping it stays the same for 26. That's my first item. The next one is septic revenues. We kept them the same as 2025. We're kind of holding steady, and with the septic maintenance program, I think those numbers are going to stay similar to last year, so that's where they ended up at. Transfer from reserves includes 55,000 for a new SUV. And again, that's replacing my 17 half-ton, and monies for that was previously raised in reserves. Next I have expenses, 3.5% for wage increases. That's basically for everyone on staff. Overall group benefits decreased by 4.87%. Training costs, we left the same as last year. We kind of always are trying to get training when we have time. We have a new staff member starting next year, so we've left some money in there for that. General insurance increases 6 to 8%. The BFL. Increase for the anti-municipal dog pound fee. So our portion is $10,325 for 26. My capital projects, like I said, were the 55,000 for a new SUV, and contributions to reserves, 8,000 times 2 again. That's my report and my summary for today.
Any questions? Cease?
Yeah, these are more related to, I see in the thing that we budgeted 55,000 for a vehicle in 2025, and now we're budgeting another $55,000 in 26. So I'm assuming that we bought a vehicle in 2025. and now we're buying the second vehicle in 2026. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I've replaced the Subaru. I was replacing the Subaru. We're keeping it as a third vehicle, and then we've also replaced the truck that Rhodes currently has. But basically, I have one new one last year. I'm trying to get one new one this year. And that would probably do it for new ones for us for like 7 or 8 years because I think we're all topped up then with new vehicles. But yes.
Okay, so we need that. Couple of other questions related to things that we were talking about doing and wanted to know where they stood. We talked about merging the septic and building data into one system so that we would be able to track the progress of anything or a particular roll number through the system in terms of what it's going to do. One, where are we with that if we've started it? And two, is that going to impact anything on the operating budget for what we're going to be doing? Because obviously it would be a great thing to be able to merge those into one system and easy to find.
So I don't think in-house we really started that. We're kind of keeping them separate at this point. Cloud Permit, I think maybe can do some of this for us, which we're investigating costs and that kind of stuff. But I also think there's maybe talk of another program within the county for all the building departments. So at this point, one of those two is that I don't have an answer today for that, but like I say, we can certainly look at it. Cloud Permit, like I say, I think does it, just a matter how much it costs to get that kind of module.
So basically it's the same thought as we were talking before.
Mhm.
What I'm kind of hoping is that a lot of this stuff I'm talking about is probably going to get developed in 2026, and I'm hoping it'll be ready for the 2027 budget, because then we'd be able to be more in control of it. We talked about in previous years about having online accounts for tracking the progress of building permits and where they are, and the whole concept of allowing a contractor and or a builder to basically see where they are and how they're going to go. Has that progressed well? Are you comfortable where it is, or do we need to spend more resources on
Well,
developing that
no,
further?
so I think Cloud Permit does a lot of this. If people actually kind of use Cloud Permit the way it's kind of set up to, it's just a matter of getting people, I think, trained that, okay, Cloud Permit kind of tells you this and tells you when you need to call for inspections and where you're at in progress. But a lot of times, again, if people like me, they're old school and they maybe don't look at Cloud Permit sometimes for those, but I think Cloud Permit already does what you're asking it to do. It's just a matter of whether people actually use it or not sometimes.
Go ahead, Steve.
So it's a question of promoting it and looking at it.
Yeah.
I guess the people who would benefit the most would be the contractors who have been given authority to do that. Do you see them using it or not using it?
Again, it just depends. Some of the old school guys don't like to, but again, I think they're realizing now that if they do, it's easier for them. So that one's a standard kind of work in progress as far as trying to get people to use it sometimes, but I
Okay.
think it's improved since I've been here in the last couple of years. It's just a work in progress still.
Thank you.
Other questions?
I have one more.
Go ahead, sir.
We've talked about the septic inspection program over many years, and the fact now that we're coming up into 9 years of the program having been started in 2017. Over that period of time, we were looking at trying to improve it to make it more easy to use, which is fine going forward. But we're getting to the point now where we need to decide, are we going to go back and start looking at the ones that were done 9 years ago? Because 9 years is a long time in the life of a septic system. Are we going to be looking at anything in that particular area in 2026? And if so, do you think it's going to have any impact on the operating budget for the people that are doing that? Because I've been asked, where are we in terms of re-inspections of the re-inspections? And right now, I really don't have an answer, and I'm kind of hoping that we can get an answer before the end of, well, hopefully by the time we get to the summer. But I know there could or could not be costs associated with it.
Yeah, so the deputy chief has been looking in the Cloud Permit to see if it can help with the septic reinspection program as well. Because again, it would just make it easier for us when we're sending out letters if we can just kind of hit a button and this is our area and this is who we're sending it to. I don't think we have an answer on that, but that one's a work in progress. And as far as the septic reinspection, like for me, we have 2 more years that we're hoping we get through first round. And then, like I say, then council can decide where we want to go from there with it. But certainly if people are asking where it's at, we have a couple more years to try and get through the lakefront properties, and then we'll see what council wants to do at that point. But
So technically, so in other words, we're not going to really reinvestigate it as to how we can improve the existing ones in 2026.
Probably not. Like I say, I'll talk to the deputy again to see how he's making it with the Cloud Permit, because I know we were investigating whether it could help us with that, but I don't think we have an answer yet. So
Okay, thank you.
probably not this year, but we can see what we can help.
Other questions? Okay, thank you.
Okay, as we move into bylaw enforcement, so our bylaw enforcement revenues. So we have our trailer permit revenue. It did reduce. We reduced it down in 2026 to $3,000. This is one of those accounts where the permits fluctuate year over year, and it's also dependent upon building permit issuance because that is the idea behind having the RV permit is that you're going to build. So there was decrease in revenue from 25, and so we're gonna stay on par with $3,000 in 2026. Our compliance letter revenue, again, it's another one where you see fluctuations depending on the market, the real estate market. So we did see a bit of an increase over 25's revenue, but we're going to hold steady at 5,000, just depending on, again, how much liquidity people have available to them and changing of hands. On the STR licensing revenue side, for 2026, we have estimated $45,000 or the equivalent of 90 licensed STRs at $500 per license. Approximately, there is 127 properties that were identified on host compliance or Granicus, and approximately we had 100 registrants in 2025. So it's just trying to determine, will we have the same amount? Will some fall off? Or will be better in 26 than we were in 25. Happy to answer any questions on the revenue side, unless you'd like me to jump into expenses.
Any questions on the revenue side? Fine, Cease?
Just the whole idea, it sounds like the STR program is under the umbrella of the bylaw enforcement people. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's correct.
Okay. So when we come to review this thing, and I'll be mentioning it more at the end, we need to kind of sort of figure out what our strategy is going to be for overall control of this program, because it seems to be that we have 2 or 3 different groups of people working on the STR program. So, but you're telling me that that's kind of it. And when you're talking about the fees of $45,000, that is money that is totally exclusive to us, as opposed to the MAT tax where we share that.
That's correct.
Okay, and you're projecting that we're going to have another $40,000 in 2026.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Moving on.
Okay. On the expense side, again, we have our 3.5% increase. Our salaries under bylaw enforcement do include 2 full-time bylaw officers, as well as our part-time short-term rental licensing clerk that assists with the STR program. Under our contracted services for bylaw, it is our portion of the shoreline bylaw enforcement program, which is administered by the County of Haliburton. So that amount is set by the county. And so for 2026, our cost of that program will be $33,483, which is approximately 27.36% of the overall program. And that's based upon the identified number of waterfront properties. Again, we saw our group benefit decrease. Our training account reduced slightly in 2026, but we do still have monies in for training to send one of our enforcement officers for their Part 1 MLEO training, as well as any other required training for the department that does arise throughout the year. Our supplies account is to remain the same in 26 as it did in 25 in order to assist with our further promotion and education costs around the STR licensing program. Again, the first full year of the program, it's going to be a little bit more labor intensive getting everyone registered and understanding the requirements. And so for this year, we're really trying to drive home promotion and education of don't forget to license your STRs. Here are things to consider and to keep in mind. Our general insurance increase again, and we've also have a slight increase in our cell phone costs. And again, that cell phone account is slightly higher because one of the cell phones for the enforcement officers is due for replacement this year. $28,900 is allocated for the annual Granicus or the host compliance software license renewal. This is in relation to the STR licensing program. So our annual licensing software fee for the program is $28,900. And for contributions to reserves in 26, we are starting to put funds away again for a future vehicle replacement in years ahead, approximately 7 or 8 years down the road. So we're starting an $8,000 transfer this year for a replacement in future years, as we just replaced the by law enforcement truck last year with a new truck and cab.
Great, thank you. I'm gonna ask for questions. I just have one, Britt, that we are gonna have some changes to our clear and clean. And I just wondered if we should have had something put there that could be a cost occurred there.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So under our solicitor or legal expenses, we have allocated some monies because we do understand that some of those bylaws do need revitalizing and updating. So there have been monies allocated under our solicitor account in order to have them reviewed by the solicitor in order for us to get them updated as well.
Thank you.
We'll do the legwork. We would just have them do the review.
Cease.
And that's a good question, because when I asked the question about the whole concept of being able to recoup some of our monies, to fast track some of the closure of open items and trying to use some kind of a penalty program. It was explained to me that there are 2 or 3 other bylaws that impact that, and they're all going to be done at the same time. Which is a great thing. I have no problem with that. But the people that I'm representing are asking when. In other words, how's this going to work? Because at the end of the day, if we're not going to do anything until all of them have been approved, then we're probably not going to do a whole lot in 2026, because it's going to take a while to do that. Or is there a plan in place to be able to review whatever of these bylaws that are impacting the overall clean, clear, and things that are in that general category, so that we can get something in place for the summer, because that's when most of these problems occur. Because at this point in time, there is a general consensus of opinion from the public that we're really not doing a whole lot to close these items quickly. But it sounds like there is a rationale reason for doing that, and it certainly would offset the cost of doing it. So it may end up giving us the ability to bring more bylaw enforcement officers on board. So is there an opportunity, maybe not in the next week or two, because that's just not possible, but say, for instance, within the next couple of months, that we get some kind of a plan that identifies how we're going, which bylaws apply and impact that particular challenge. And secondly, how are we going to go through them, not so much in a fast track for just getting it done, but to thoroughly repair the problem so that we can now start doing what we need to do, which is close offenses more quickly and more efficiently.
Yes, so the enforcement officers have heard the direction from council, and they're actually diligently working on it as we speak. I overheard our enforcement officer discussing it last week with our clerk, actually, just with regards to updating some of those older bylaws so that they can feed into our new administrative monetary penalties systems bylaw. And one of the things I would just caution is it does take some time to make sure that they're worded appropriately so that they can be enforced properly. And my only concern is I would hate for us to run or leap before and run before we're ready. And so I just want to make sure that whatever we are putting forward, that we are able to enforce, and we are the enforcement officers, it's going to assist them as well. But they are working on it right now, and there will be probably an update coming forward in their monthly bylaw report to council, just as to the additional work that they've been working on since our last meeting.
Okay, just again, I understand, and I'm not trying to, there's a lot of impatient people in the world right now. And so at the end of the day, when are we going to get there? It's like having kids in the backseat of the car and they're going somewhere. But the point is if we have 2 or 3 of these things, and obviously bylaw enforcement is aware of them, can we just get a list that says these are the 3 or 4 that fall into that general category, and approximately individually, what's the game plan for resolving them? Do we have an idea of when, if there are 3 of them, 4 of them, whatever number there are, do we have an idea of when we're going to close them off? Some are going to be a lot more complicated than others. I get that. Some is just going to be a question of looking at it and determining where we need to go. So I'm kind of hoping that can be done. And to do that, do you foresee any additional stress on our resources? Or can we do it with what we have? There's no need to adjust the budget to accomplish that.
No, I don't think we need to look at adjusting the budget. As I mentioned to Mayor Burton, we have incorporated some monies on the legal side just to make sure that once our staff are comfortable with that the applicability of our bylaws for Highlands East, that then they are reviewed again by a solicitor just to make sure that they are what we need. And we can certainly look at the bylaws that require updating. I do believe bylaw included quite a few of those bylaws that require updating in their last monthly. Some of them being clean and clear, parking, dog. There's quite a handful, and we can have that list provided again in their monthly report next month.
Thank you very, very much for that.
Other questions? Okay, emergency measures?
Chris, could we just have Chris come back to the stage just to discuss emergency measures?
Thank you again, Mayor and Council. This is a short one. Wages are included in part of for the fire chief, deputy chief, and clerk's wages are part of this account. Money is included for training expenses, including courses in basic emergency management for supervisors and their alternates, as well as community emergency management training for the deputy chief. General supplies accounts include monies towards our annual EOC training and tabletop exercise, potentially looking for another joint exercise session this year across the county for 2026.
Okay, any questions? Please.
Chris, we talked I was excited about the way we spoke, by the way, about having a more consolidated approach across the entire county with regards to this whole emergency thing. And there were some thoughts in terms of what can or what makes sense to have it consolidated at the county level and what other parts need to be done at the municipal level. Have we really put any more thought into that? And if so, would that have any impact on the operating budget, or do you feel that any of that stuff is more administrative and would not impact the bottom line?
Don't think we have anything in the works that would affect the budget this year. We always have been training the same in order to have interoperability between the municipalities and the council. As far as joining 100%, we haven't got there yet, as the legislation rules that out, that we must have our own plan and individuals in place. But there is still discussion of a community or a countywide coordinator at some point, but it's not likely for this year. So it's still in the planning stages at that.
Thank you.
Other questions? Seeing none, thanks, Chris. Council, I think we'll take a 10-minute break. Oh, okay, thank you. Down to Public Works, Perry.
Good morning, Mayor and members of council. Before you is our Public Works. We'll do the roads revenue first. The roads revenue for 2026, we've reduced to $70,000. And that's namely because we've entered into road maintenance agreements through the private road program. One private road opted to opt out of the municipality doing the road. So that's the decrease of 10,000 roughly. And that's a good thing in one way because then that has our staff out working on our municipal roads rather than doing a contracted service. So 125,000, as we spoke about earlier, for OSA funding, we utilized towards the Hadleyton Road Reconstruction Project. And through the hard work of our admin staff, we have received $38,000 for a pothole prevention program to assist with offsetting expenditures related to road construction projects. And again, contribution from reserves in the current budget year, our funds allocated in previous years not completed or transfers to help expense large infrastructure projects for 2026. We talked about this in our capital projects previously. 10,000 for a new garage door, which was going to be installed this week. Glamour Lake Road extension project, Lewis Road, Hadlington Road, South Wilberforce Road, and the Fire Hall roadway in Gooderham. Also, the roads need study as well, which will be completed this year through a contracted service. It also includes a transfer of 147,000 from roads equipment reserve to offset any equipment purchases in this current year.
Any questions on this part? Cease?
Yeah, just a quick one. Might be because we haven't caught up to what we've already decided. I noticed that on page 24 of this budget, we're identifying Lewis Road with $90,000. Now, that's in the notes piece. So we talked during our capital budget that we may adjust that number depending on what it is that we come up with. Is that going to change the 626,000?
I'll let Brittany answer that one.
Thank you. No, the $90,000 that is included in the budget towards Lewis was from the prior direction of council, including the brushing and the ditching. We also have the additional $50,000 transfer to reserve for any additional works that we discussed in scenario 3. And when we get onto the expense side, there is also the discussion of the additional calcium application as well.
So at the end of the day, the 90,000 is just a number that we placed in there because it was there, but it could be adjusted depending on whatever it is that we come up with. Because I think we were talking about 50,000 more or something like that. So that would be what we're doing, not necessarily following the note itself. I'm looking at the note on 2024, which makes it confusing.
Sorry, so the 90,000 that is attributed is to complete the work for the brushing and the ditching.
Okay.
And then the 50,000 transfer to reserve, which when you add it to the 90 is another additional 140, which total 140,000 around Lewis Road. That's a transfer to reserve for additional works that may transpire or whatever that work may be. And then some additional operating dollars in relation to calcium application.
Okay, so it's been covered off in the plan. Thank you.
And that would allow us to then, if we decide to, or if it's council's wish to spend that money, the 50,000 that we transferred into reserves for 2026, to use it in 26, if council were to approve that, or the money will be spent or used in 2027 if need be. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, Perry?
So the expenses side is quite a bit longer than the revenue side. I'm sorry. So the roads expenses, we have a negotiated 3.5% wage increase for all staff. Roads contracted services of 20,000. That's specifically earmarked for Universal Road, which is up on the other side of Halliburton, as everyone is aware. Overall group benefit decrease of 4.87%. Staff training expenses slightly less than 2026. We include money for our attendance to Good Roads Conference, staff for TJ Mahoney Road School. The TJ Mahoney Road School is it's a 2-year course. It's roads, construction and maintenance, 1 year after another. So they're mandatory 2 courses for our operational staff to take, and we select staff to take them. That way, then it's building succession planning for staff that are either retiring out like myself or our operations supervisors. So it's really key to have that type of training in there for our staff. And then once they do the TJ Mahoney Road School is what we call it, then there are options to go into the CRS program, which is a Certified Road Super program, which is a designation. Book 7 training, commercial vehicle operator, we do training, and there's also compliance stuff that we would do in that regard too as well, and safety related training. Our roads radio account is reduced in 2026 as the digital road radio replacements were all completed in 2025. So all the vehicles are now in with the new digital radio system and ready and for use once we nail down the gentleman to do some training for us. It also includes funds to install the GPS units on any newly purchased vehicles and equipment within the department. And in saying that too as well, if we replace a vehicle as it goes to surplus, we can take that GPS unit out of that vehicle and plug it into the new one. So we don't necessarily have to buy new equipment for each new vehicle. They get used again as we replace our fleet. So proposed calcium supply account, we'd like to increase that in 2026 from 100 to 125,000. That additional calcium application to Lewis Road regarding the maintenance work scheduled for the roadway. Might not be the full 25,000 for Lewis Road, but it will give us an opportunity to have a little bit more money in there, just depending on how our spring rolls out. Hopefully it's not a dry spring, but just to have that little bit extra in there is kind of nice. Our roads sand account has been reduced in 2026 from 2025. We're looking at, we have 3 full domes. Well, not 3 full domes now, going over the course of the winter, but we'll be able to utilize the contracted services for sand less in 2026. General and current insurance increases between 6% and 8% over 2025. Software license account to be reduced in 2026, and this is mainly utilizing the PSD Citywide versus using the GoEvil mesh program. That's significant savings there because we can utilize the PSD Citywide through our accounting software and everything else. So it's a highly utilized way of doing our tracking. The roads legal account increased to 55,000 to address ongoing union arbitration costs and any other monies for legal matters that may arise. One instance we had in 2025 was an entrance permit was submitted. It was on Crown land. So we had to ask for legal advice about going through the process of having the Crown land adjacent to our municipal right of way. So once we got that all figured out, then if we run into anything like that, that's a hiccup that we don't understand, and we prefer to find out from legal to make sure that we're on the right path with it. So sorry, I lost where I was here. The 2026 equipment maintenance account will remain the same as in 2025. I want to compliment our mechanic and all of our operators for taking extra care of the equipment. The only thing with this is that we're kind of going out on the limb of it by leaving it the same as last year, but we really watch our equipment maintenance budget. It doesn't allow for anything that has a big expense in case, as of right now, our 2012 grader is down at Brant with transmission troubles. So, you know, we tend to hope that we can stay within that budget in 2026, but we really try hard, and compliments to our mechanic and staff for making sure that the equipment doesn't have to have any more expense to it than it needs to. So. An additional 50,000 is allocated to the 2026 operating budget to allow for roadside brushing. This by far is very good money spent because you get the brushing away from the edges of the road. It allows the sunlight in. It allows for our tandem trucks to pass down the road safely without breaking mirrors off of them and so on and so forth. And this money is hired through a contract service with a big grader that does it for us. 75,000 towards road support for maintenance and repairs of bridges and culverts as outlined in the biannual OSIN report. So this is has to be done every 2 years. And this does all of our bridge structures as well as any culverts that are over 4 feet in diameter. So it does the bridges plus big culverts, like for instance, Earl's Road that we had just installed the big culverts there. The focus this year will be on the Tall Pines and Legacy bridges. And also, I believe Legacy is culverts, if I'm not mistaken. So also includes funds to complete, again, our required biannual bridge report for 2026. Increased funds allocated to the private roads grant program to $30,000 as program usage has increased. And again, our capital projects for 2026, as I had just spoke about earlier, is a 10,000 for the new bay door, 265,000 for the new 1-ton with the dump box and sander, 280,000 for Glamour Lake Road extension, 90,000 for Lewis, 100,000 for Contour Lake Road, 350,000 for Hadlington, 150,000 for South Wilberforce, 75,000 for the fire hall in Gooderham, the entranceway, 20,000 for a V-plow and sanding unit for the new 2500 that we purchased last year, 40,000 for it's a slide-in poly water tank that we had purchased 2 years ago, and it works so well. We'd like to have a second one to replace the one that's getting aged. And again, the roads need study for $50,000. The roads need study itself is, again, same as your bridge reports. It's an integral piece of information for us moving forward to help us set and designate what roads need to be completed when, not just based on opinion, but it's based on the useful life of the road, depending on whether it's gravel, surface treatment, or asphalt. Transfer to reserves for 2026 include 40,000 to shingle the small sand dome. That's half of what it would cost us to do it in 27. 15,000 for future replacement of the John Deere loader. 35,000 for the future replacement of the John Deere crawler, which is the bulldozer that we use to do all of our landfill work. 70,000 for future grader replacement. They're about 650, 700,000. So you need to plan well ahead to replace that unit. Future backhoe replacement of 30,000. The second John Deere loader replacement of 25,000. 125,000 for future tandem replacement, and 75,000 to pay back of reserves that we used to purchase the one of the 2 tandems that showed up here this year. One was supposed to come in 25, as everyone was aware, and the other one to come in 26. They both showed up at the same time. $65,000 for future tandem replacement and $50,000 for Lewis Road future construction work, as our CAO had alluded to earlier. So that covers all our bases. So,
all right, I'm going to ask for questions here in a second. I just had one, Perry, the 265,000 for a new 1-ton and dumpster and sander. One time I used to be able to buy a friggin' tandem for that. It seems a
You're
little
100% right, Mr. Mayor. Now, I probably went a bit high there because we're looking at a specific unit. It's an international truck. So what we've had before there is it's a sanding unit that you put in the truck. The one that we're looking at was something similar to the one that was there prior, where it is basically you take a tandem truck or a single axle truck and shrink it right down. So it has the plow on it. The sander box is the sander box that stays on there. It can be still utilized as a dump box in the summertime. You can actually use the main chain on it to roll cold mix out for doing cold mix and stuff too. So it is a little bit bigger purchase than what we have there now, but I'm hoping that we can get it for a little bit less than that, but that's just to ensure that we have enough funds available. But
Now, will it replace the Ford?
yes, it will replace the Ford. Now, in saying that too, the Ford that we have, it's a 2016. It's we've done lots of repairs to it. It's still a great truck. We'll probably get a pretty good dollar for it when we surplus it as well. But again, we'll just shoot that money into reserves for future. So
Thank you. Questions? Cease?
Yep. First off, yeah, I'm still following up with Universal Road people on where that's going, and to see that we're putting more money into that road. That's awesome. The question that I'm having there is, as we both know, the condition of the Universal Road deteriorated over a period of time to the point where it became a major issue. And we sat down with ISART and kind of sorted out some stuff going into there. So my question is, are you comfortable with the agreements that we have made, not only with Universal Road, because that seems to be the one that creates the greatest amount of challenge, at least in my ward, but with the others that we've got in terms of that, to the point where we will never allow another road that we jointly control to get to the condition that Universal Road was. And is that going to be reflected in the MOUs that we sign with them, or is it just an understanding that that's just not going to happen?
through your worship to Deputy Mayor Ryle, those road agreements are due this year. And I'm going to spend a mountain of my time this summer going through them, fine tooth comb with them, with each of the municipalities, to make sure that we capture everything that should be in them, line by line, on paper, in writing. We don't want to get into the same situation that we just got into with Universal Road. We put a ton of money into that road in 2024, I guess it was, at the end of the season, and to bring it where it should be. And we don't want to try to allow that to happen again in future. So looking at these road agreements with the different municipalities, I want to make sure that they are ironclad, who does what, when, and then have that brought back to council so that we can go over it and get them signed out before the end of this calendar year. So.
Cease?
Yeah, that would have a significant impact on future operating budgets for sure. I have a couple more, but the ice storm still left a pile of junk in our ditches. And I'm looking at the fact that we're going to be doing ditch cleaning and so on and so forth. And there are some of those ditches that have yet to be cleaned. And I mean, you run out of time, you run out of resources, and Mother Nature this year has really put a kibosh on everything with the amount of snow that we've had. Going forward into the spring, is it our intention that as part of the cleaning, not clean and clear, but the cleaning of the ditches and trimming, that will be dealt with? And if so, do you see any impact on the budget, or is that already been included in the cost of what you believe needs to be done?
Through your worship, Deputy Mayor Rao, that is already included in the 2026 operating budget. We have the staffing, we have the excavator that has the clam like a cherry picker on it. So it's just a matter of delegating our staff out through a work process to make sure that we utilize all of the resources we have, including the machine, so that we can clean out those areas of concern, brushing as well. One note I do want to make note of too is there is a section of Contu Lake Road, and I'm not sure if anyone is aware of this, but there was a hydro line put through there last fall, and I have told Hydro One not to hook up that gentleman's hydro because he's the one that made the mess on that property through that right away, and he hasn't cleaned it up yet. So I've enforced Hydro One to not hook up power to him until he cleans up the mess that was made there. So I know that one sticks out like a sore thumb because it's probably almost a kilometer long, but any of the spots that we need to clean up that have been cleaned up, we will address that through our normal operating budget this year.
Sis?
The other issue that we, well, it's in the, I didn't know that you were involved with the private road grant, so. But I'm looking at the $30,000 and I'm thinking this is really a good thing. And one of the reasons that we wanted it looked at was because of the X and Y coordinates that come off of that, which is the number of properties plus the length of it. Would it be safe to say that that we really can't do anything to adjust those numbers until after the budget has been approved?
Through your worship to Deb Mara, yes, you are correct. We don't know what these new agreements are going to bring to us coming into 2027 with the different municipalities, but we'll be ensured that if there are any costs that need to be recovered, we'll make sure that we recover them.
I wasn't referring to that because you answered that very well. I was talking more about the actual private road grants that an individual private road can apply to us for assistance in maintaining their particular private road. Okay, and it's, you indicated, and it's that we have $30,000 in there, which to me is great because it's an increase over last year. So I guess because I'm being asked, where's the money? And I think that's why I'm saying, would it be safe to say that we cannot adjust that formula until after the budget has been approved? So we can find out what the overall demand is for that particular money. Would that be correct?
Okay, I will pass that over to our CAO. Thank you.
Thank you. We adjusted those figures last year. Yes, we adjusted the figures last year for the budget. And so those additional factors, we based the 30,000 on the demand of the program last year. We saw quite a few more road groups that were applying for it. And so the demand is there. So that's why we increased it up to the 30,000. If you're going to look at the factors again and changing them, it may reduce down the number of people that will apply. Because then again, your higher factors it will give some groups more money, but then some groups may not be able to also apply if the money's not there. So we did just adjust those numbers. But we increased the overall available amount so that more people could be eligible to apply and receive monies.
So if I understand you correctly, we capped out at 20,000 last year. So we've increased it to 30,000 this year. So obviously more and more people think there's value because at one point they just didn't think it was worth the paperwork to do it. So you answered my question without dealing with the X and Y, and that's a good thing. So I thank you very, very much for that.
Okay, waste, Barry?
Yes, thank you again. So our waste revenue for 2026 will remain the same as 2025. Revenue includes monies from Circular Materials Ontario regarding our contracted agreements for the Blue Box program. This is the first year of our new contract, which runs from 2026 to 2029. It also includes monies for tipping fees, scrap metal, waste, tires, waste electronics, etc. The Ward 1 garbage and recycling contract has been reduced to $23,492 annually. The reduced contract price is attributed to the fact that the recycling portion of the contract is now covered by Circular Materials Ontario. So typically that was twice the price, but because Circular Materials Ontario now have brought in a new contracted service, taken it over, we no longer do that or pay for it. These costs are for garbage collection only. Transfer from reserves includes $25,000 towards the tree clearing and survey work for Highway 28 landfill expansion. Also includes $45,000 for Highway 28 and $60,000 for Tory Hill recycling costs raised in 2025 towards the grinding of the construction and demolition waste at these landfills. That work was not completed in 25. We did an RFP. The successful proponent is kind of ghosted us, for lack of a better word. So we're working to get a contract service in to have that taken care of. Monies are being brought back in 2026 to complete, along with additional construction and demolition grinding. includes an additional 75,000 to help offset the ICNI. So that's the industrial recycling expenditures for 2026, which we didn't have in 2025. This 75,000 number is a number that we have give our best educated guess on what it would cost us to remove the recycling from all of our basically our businesses that have to bring it to the waste site. And that's our waste revenues for 26.
Any questions? Cease?
You may have already answered this, so I'm gonna ask it again anyway. We got a $205,000 transfer with regards to cleaning and clearing areas that are going to be impacted. I'm assuming for the expansion of waste management in some areas. I'm taking that from page 38 of the budget. And it can go to 38 and kind of read what it says in the notes, because I don't have the actual note here. But I think what I was trying to find out was where you believe you're going to be able to apply the monies to be used towards tree clearing and survey for expansion work also includes, and then the rest of it's truncated. Do you know which particular sites that's going to be applied to?
Yeah, through your worship to Deputy Mayor Rao, Highway 28, the landfill site there. We had done the same previously in 2024. We cleared 4 acres at the Torrey Hill site, and we want to do the same thing at Highway 28 site. Not that we're running short of space, we just want to be proactive and do this in succession steps so that we can have space available when need be.
Cease?
So when we calculate the life expectancy of a landfill, once you've done this, that's going to extend that life? Or is that a completely different
Through your
calculation?
worship to Deputy Mayor Ryle, I would assume, and I can verify this for you at a later date, but the waste site itself, the property itself would be already calculated. If it's usable space, even though it still has trees on it, that usable space for, say, the 10-acre parcel, for instance, that would tell you your years of life. Because it'd be set out in I don't know if it's set out in cells or just one big area, but yeah, it's a calculation that would tell you that if this 10-acre site has been approved for so many years of waste, depending on how much you put into the site each year. So if the waste increases, then your life of the site drops. But through our contract services, our consultant, they would have that 10-acre parcel would say this is how many years that site would be based on how much effort or how much material you will put into it. So whatever is not cleared right now would be included as the useful life. If I'm correct. If I'm wrong, I'll retract that. And
I am confident you will. I got one last question. We have waste management agreements with both Minden Hills and Dysart, respectively. One waste coming to us, the other one going in the opposite direction. Will either of these agreements have any impact on our operating budget that you know of? And a similar question with regards to the impact of the Blue Box, because you were talking about challenges we were running into the Blue Box program and that we may or may not be making decisions on just the facilities, equipment, and so on and so forth. Do you see that as an issue for 2026 at all? And or is it something that you're going to be able to control and may or may not affect 2027?
Through your worship to Deputy Mayor Rao, I don't see any cause for concern with the existing agreements. Right now at this point with 2026, the only concern I have is through the recycling program that we have now entered into with Circular Materials Ontario. And it baffles me honestly that recycling is recycling, whether it comes from a residential house or it comes from a business. It's all recycling. So that is our only concern at this point in time. So our staff and myself are looking at if we run into expenses that we're not comfortable with as far as the 75,000 that we have in there. We may end up making some changes to the two sites that we're using right now, Torrey Hill and Bycroft, converting it over into the Torrey Hill site and maybe using the compacted bins, which, as everyone is aware, one compacted bin replaces 3 open top bins. So honestly, it's not about the cost of the recycling, it's the cost of the trucking of the materials is the only thing that we're not 100% aware of. So if we can take that carbon footprint and put those 3 open top bins and compact them, then that's less trucking for us, less expenses for us. So that's our only concern at this point, and we're really watching that very diligently.
Good.
And I thank you very much for that. If that were to become the worst case scenario, is it possible, or would we be able to, recognizing that that could be an overrun, is there an opportunity for us to possibly look at reserve money that was possibly allocated for something similar, or at least in that general department, and say, okay, we can cover it off with that? I realize that whatever we move to wherever we move it is going to impact where it's coming from. So, and I don't expect that answer today, but is that an option that we could use if we had to?
Through your worship, to Deputy Mayor Ryle. So what we're thinking of is now is specifically at the Torrey Hill site, we have 2 compactor bins there, and they're both, one is for cardboard and the other one is for plastics. So what we have set up now is that the commercial users use the 2 overflow bins that are off to the side. So there wouldn't be so much monies put out in order to accommodate this. I would just flop them around. I would have the commercial users drive up, use the ramps that are there existing and the compactor bins. But then that poses a challenge for our residential users, because then we would have to build something of the same fashion for them to dump into the open top bins. The open top bins for residential use doesn't really matter to the municipality, because Circular Materials Ontario, they pay to truck them out and so on and so forth. So we are already looking at, should we just be doing this, or are we going to see how much it's going to cost us for the year to do this? And then if we look like we're getting to a point where we better switch something out, we would do this in the fall before we get into the freeze up, in order to make sure that we make the same accessibility for the residential users as we have for the commercial users. But they just wouldn't be putting it into compactor bins. The residential users could still drive up and put the stuff in the open top bins, similar to what we do at the Glamour transfer station now, Glamorgan.
Thank you.
Other questions? Okay, Perry?
Okay, so the waste expenses side, as per everyone's budget, a 3.5% increase through the negotiated union contract. Again, overall group benefit decrease of 4.87%. Monies included in the recycling costs for each landfill site is to address the bulk garbage haulage and the commercial C&D grinding at Highway 28 and the Torrey Hill landfill sites. In 2026, we also need to attribute for the commercial blue box transfers, as this will be a responsibility of the municipality, as I just spoke about. Residential blue box and commercial blue box materials are to be separate at the site, which they currently are. Need to include monies to transfer the bins off-site. Commercial users will be able to deposit recycled materials at either Torrey Hill or Bycroft landfill sites, depending on how that flows over the course of 2026. General insurance increases of 6.8%, 6 to 8% over 2025. Alarm monitoring and surveillance account includes the annual monies required to operate the associated landfill surveillance systems. Reduce the amount to the building and property repairs accounts. Monies allocated in 26 are to address any gate or site maintenance issues that arise. Decrease in equipment rentals in 2026 as we move towards the new compostable toilets that were installed in 2025. Those toilets are installed at Mumford, Bycroft, and Highway 28 landfills. Portable toilet rentals are still required for Torrey Hill and the Gooderham Transfer Station. We would put the one over at Torrey, well, no, sorry, there's we have the buildings are already built right there for the Torrey Hill and the Gooderham Transfer Station. Slightly increase the household hazardous waste event day expenditures in Highlands East for 26 to $50,000. To your point earlier, Mr. Mayor, I remember we could do 5 events for $50,000. Now the mobilization fee is gone crazy. Increase addresses, the increase addresses high mobilization costs associated with these events. 2 events will be scheduled for Highlands East, along with the event that were in cohorts with Faraday Township. And the capital projects include the $50,000 tree removal and survey work required for the Highway 28 landfill expansion project. That's what I have.
Any questions? Please.
So that was going to be my question about hazardous waste, but sounds to me like it's just plain cost prohibitive to do anything more than what we're currently doing now. Because people have asked me, is there an opportunity to get an additional day put in there? And it sounds to me like that would be extremely cost prohibitive, or am I wrong?
Through your worship to Deputy Mayor Al, that's exactly, it's all cost prohibitive. We are looking at other suppliers to do the events for us. But we're in conversations with our CAO at present about that. So I'll let Brittany speak to that.
Just one of the things to note with regards to our household hazardous waste events. So they are a county-wide initiative in the sense that all 4 municipalities, you're able to go to the various events across the county at no charge as long as you bring your landfill card. So the cost of those mobilization fees are quite high and staff see that. For this year, the idea is that we will continue with our current contractor, but that an RFP is going to be released later this year for the entire program so that we can look at trying to get some better fees. And then maybe that will give us some flexibility to have some more events in future years, depending on those costs as well. So.
Go ahead.
We're all quite familiar with the impact of the ice storm and what it did to everybody. Not just what it did to us as a municipality and our stuff, but what it did to private sector people who are trying to get rid of a whole pile of debris. One of the things that we spoke about just in general conversation last year was the opportunity to create a day where people can bring the overall major stuff that they can't get rid of to a common place where it can be dealt with either shredded or in some way, shape, or form. Is that something that you would be investigating? Because I think you said you were. And is it something that could be done in 2026? Possibly not in the spring, but perhaps in the fall.
Through your worship to Deputy Mayor Rao. Yes, so what we did in 2026 was to allow a certain time frame for people to bring their anything that they needed to the waste site. There'd be no fee for it. Looking ahead at whether they need to bring bulk items like tree trunks or anything of that sort, we are still looking in to see if we would have a spot that we could accommodate that. We want to be careful of having that stuff come into the waste site because that's really just going to impact where we put the material and then again useful life of the waste site. So I can come back with a plan later on.
Good.
In other municipalities where they've done this, they've put a restriction on a 4-inch diameter. So anything greater than a 4-inch diameter, you can't bring it in because they can't deal with it. So that would be something that I would think would be quite acceptable and reduce the opportunity for really screwing things up the way you're suggesting it. If we were going to go that route, let's just assume for the sake of argument, I'm thinking it'd probably be more in the fall and spring to prepare for everything that you said. Is it something that we would give advance notice of if and when we decide to do that so that people would be able to know that they should be able to clean up that stuff, have it ready so that they can transport it, not us, but they can transport it to wherever it is we decide we're going to put it within a fixed period of time. Does that make sense?
Yes, through your worship to Deputy Mayor Rowell, yes, I would say that would make sense. I do believe that we have the, in with our brush, I don't think we take anything more than 4 inch already. I think that's standard for us. But again, we could look at other options too, if it's tree link stuff that they want to try to get rid of. We have the wood program too, so that we could utilize that in the fall as well. They could take it over to the Parks and Rec yard and leave it there too as well. So, yep.
Thank you.
All right, other questions? Seeing none, thank you. Environment and water and wastewater. Patrick?
Yeah, good morning, Mayor and Council. Before using my operating budget for 2026 for water and wastewater, I'll start with wastewater revenues. 4% user increase equaling to $561.02 per connection. In accordance to the water and wastewater financial plan, total of 255 connections. $31,000 of the Canada Community Building Funds received in 2021 to be utilized for funding for the driver's wet weather flow study required by the Ministry of Environment, and a $70,000 transfer from reserve to cover the shortfall in operating costs for 2026. I'll move ahead to the wastewater expenses and then break for questioning. Within the wastewater expenses, the same 3.5% wage increase as the union contract lays out for staff, 4.87% reduce in group benefits, and 68% projected increase over 2025 for general insurance from BFL Canada. Slight decrease in equipment repairs for 2025 from 2025, still requiring miscellaneous repairs that may arise and rebuild of the external diesel trash pump. Transfer to reserve includes $25,000 towards future contingency planning for lagoon system, and capital projects included in 2026 are $60,000 for the dry and wet weather flow assessment, $30,000 for a new diesel trash pump, and $25,000 to address sewer repairs based on Cameron cleaning of the system in 2024. If there are any questions regarding wastewater, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions? Pretty straightforward. See,
I just have one, and I think you answered it when we did the capital. Are you comfortable that the condition of what we have in terms of predominantly source water, but also wastewater, in specifically Cardiff and Dynamo Estates, which is where it impacts the most, but also in Wilberforce and to a much lesser extent in Gooderham. Are you comfortable that we're not going to run into any challenges that have not been included in the budget? I realize there's no crystal ball anywhere that can predict that, but obviously people try to do the best they can with risk management. Are you comfortable that we've got included in our budget things that you can foresee and that we should not have any challenges other than what Mother Nature and God decide they're going to do?
Yeah, it's a good question. Obviously, we can't predict everything. As far as emergency water repairs, we're always pretty close with the budget that we set out for the year as far as emergency main breaks, and even the sewer repair that we took on last year. We ended up utilizing the same monies that we set aside based on Cameron for an emergency repair that was already identified through the Cameron project. We do the best we can through conversations with staff and taking their advice. We spend a day every year. We do critical infrastructure forecasting, and they get their input, and it's always very useful. I think since I've been doing it, we've been pretty close, pretty accurate, and then as well as all the Excel spreadsheets that we have from years past about utilizing the the equipment and the lifelong asset, we've been pretty good. I would say, year after year, we're pretty successful at budgeting appropriately.
Cam?
This survey, dry versus wet water flow study, $60,000 seems like a lot of money. Could you just maybe expand a little bit on what it's going to do for us?
Yeah, so the project started last year. It was brought to our attention. And initially I thought $30,000 would cover it, but through our experiences with past surveys that we've done, especially in wastewater, similar to what we had to do at the lagoon, the dry and wet weather flow assessment, I'm expecting that they'll have to deploy multiple flow meters within the wastewater system, and deploying those as well as collecting them through the company that we go with. They're awarded through the RFP proposal. I believe that it'll be closer to the $60,000 mark opposed to the original $30,000.
Follow up, Cam?
So just what really is the survey, what info is it gonna provide for us? For me as a layman, it's the amount of flow we have under dry conditions versus under wet conditions. And I know we're near capacity when that happens. Is my mind in the right place?
Yeah, so the advantage to the study is to determine the areas in the wastewater collection system that are the most impacted based on wet weather flows. We see our flows rise substantially during wet weather events, and this study will bring to our attention the areas that are the most impacted through infiltration of surface water runoff. Because right now we don't know where it comes from, what areas need to be addressed first, and there's other opportunities through groundwater control that we could approach to lessen the impact of the wet weather event.
Thank you.
Cease?
We had a really brief and open discussion last year about the whole idea of communal services, and similar to what Frontenac County has done. I don't expect anything to be done in 2026, but do you think it would be a good idea to further investigate that in 2026 in the event that, because all our stuff's getting old? I mean, not just me, but everybody. So at the end of the day, is it something that maybe we should keep our eye on going forward? Maybe not even for 2027, but I think when we get into 2028 and 29, we can have some serious issues with the aging stuff that we've got. And I'm wondering if that would be something that we should start the preliminary investigation of as we speak.
Yeah, the age of infrastructure is definitely forefront for the department, as well as future expansion and development. The work that we've been doing up to now, and even including this study, if we can limit the amount of inflow we have during wet weather events, will give us the opportunity to see possible future connections with our existing wastewater system and how we need to upgrade it to move forward, as well as what we're doing in the water treatment plant, but we can get into that in the next section. We're always looking to increase flow and capacity limits, and obviously things were built for the 255 connections, but there's lots of kind of retrofits that we could do to allow some more flow. And you're never going to double capacity with what we have now, but it's always forefront of mind, but definitely something to look into for future years.
Brittany?
Thank you, Mayor. One of the other comments I was just going to make with regards to the communal servicing, I know that there was a lot of work at Frontenac County that was being done with it, and I believe that actually the county of Halliburton, some staff members are going to have some reports coming forward for county council in regards to this topic of conversation. So some of that information may answer some of the questions that you have and its applicability to us as well.
Cease?
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. I have a funny feeling it's just bigger than just talking about that, because if I understood correctly, we're going to have to make major adjustments to our official plan and a whole bunch of other things before we can even entertain that stuff. So it's not something that's going to happen tomorrow, because we do have to make adjustments for it. I just wanting to know, where is it in terms of radar? Where do we have it placed? So it looks like we're going to do some investigation in 2026, but not necessarily come up with a game plan yet.
I would say that's an accurate assessment.
Okay. Okay, water, Patrick?
Yeah, so moving into water revenue, Another 4% user fee increase based on the water and wastewater financial plan. This brings the cost to $892.34 per connection, totaling 275 connections. Transfer from reserve of $40,000 regarding unspent monies raised in 2025 to address media filter replacement project required for the Cardiff Water Treatment Plant. Going to water expenses, same 3.5% wage increase, 4.87% group benefit decrease, and 6 to 8% general insurance increase over 2025. Costs for treatment in 2026 are to remain the same as 2025. The department anticipates that the new filter system and 1 micron filters in use, these costs will decrease for the 2027 budget year and hopefully half of 2026 once the system is installed. A slight increase in Ward 1 water repairs over 2025 costs to address main breaks and repairs, along with monies to clean and inspect Clearwell, as well as cleaning well 3 in the Cardiff Town site. Reducing the Ward 4 water repairs in 2026 as a new pressure tank installation for the Wilberforce Water Treatment Plant and service connection on Holmes Road were both completed in 2025 successfully. Capital projects for water include $100,000 for media filter and 1 micron filter replacement, $10,000 for Bycroft Heights service connection replacement, $5,000 to install the new well pump at the Dino Estates treatment plant, and $5,000 for a new generator automatic transfer switch at the Dino water treatment plant.
Great, thank you. Questions? Comments? No, thank you, Patrick.
Thank you.
Parks and Rec, Brittany?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So this will, sorry about jumping around on council a little bit there. We'll be on page 12 of 14 in our summary document. First, we'll start off with the cemeteries and cemetery revenue. So we've seen a slight increase to our cemetery revenue in 2026, up to $9,000. Our cemetery inquiries and plot sales have increased considerably in our recent years. So to help offset those costs, we've just increased our revenue ever so slightly. We'll also be offering green burials and scattering options once all the sites are fully prepared. On the expense side, again, we have our established 3.5% wage increase. Under cemeteries, it does also include a portion of our park staff, as well as our property supervisor and our clerk's wages as it relates to the administrative duties related to the cemeteries. So when they do work in the cemetery, it's allocated to the cemeteries itself. The cemetery supplies account has reduced just ever so slightly over our 2025 amount, but those monies associated in that supply account are there in order to complete a variety of base repairs, so cement repairs and any other miscellaneous repairs that may arise within the cemeteries themselves. We have our projected 68% increase for general insurance costs. And under the cemetery's property repairs account, it's going to remain at $20,000 in 2026. These costs are associated with topsoil purchases when it comes to for plots and burials, any fence repairs at our cemeteries, signage repairs, any sort of dangerous tree removals that are required from the sites, as well as the purchase of 1 memorial rock for the South Wilberforce as it relates to the scattering grounds. And on the capital side of things, we have $18,000 set aside this year for the associated survey work that's required for the South Wilberforce Cemetery to address the scattering grounds. And seeing as McGillivray Cemetery was the only cemetery we have not yet surveyed, we felt it was probably prudent to get this one done as well, just for any future work that may come about. So happy to take any questions or concerns as they relate to cemeteries.
Questions? I have, go ahead, Cecil. I just have one. I'd just like to make note, Brittany, that I would really like the, I guess I'd call them the gate posts for all the gates at the cemetery. The stonework, I'm just worried some of the chinking has come off, and I'm just worried that the weather's going to get in there and pop and make more damage. And I don't think it's an expensive fix, but I'd certainly like to look at that. Cecil, go ahead.
I just have a curiosity question. On page 4, we have something called other cemeteries program expenses. And in 2025, we budgeted $200 and we spent $1. And then in 2026, we budgeted $200 more. What is that?
Oh, yes, thank you. This is in regards to the Essenville Church. So these are the $1 that you see there sitting is a rental for a propane tank. And the $200 that we have budgeted is for any heating. So usually we have a propane fill up once a year in regard so that when we have the Christmas Eve service, that there is propane available at the church for heat.
Other questions? Okay, moving on.
Okay, as we jump down into parks, recreation programs and facilities on the revenue side. So we saw quite an increase to our swim program revenue in 2025. So we have increased the projected revenue in 2026. It was a very successful year. Again, weather contributed to quite a bit of that. It was a hot, dry summer, great for swimming. And also we had quite a variety of programming options available to our residents. And so we're looking to do another very similar program this year. We've increased our community center rental revenue for 26. Rental inquiries and usage are up from our previous years. So we've just, in order to incorporate that, we've increased the monies ever so slightly. We are also seeing quite an increase in our arena rental revenue. We've seen a large uptake in our arena usage due to our hourly charges and with regards to our neighboring municipalities. We are not expecting this to decrease for 2026, so we have increased the projected revenues for this year. We are anticipating $3,000 in grant monies to assist with our Canada Day celebrations. Our grant has already been submitted and we're just waiting on word to see if we will be successful in our grant. And for transfers from reserves this year, we have some projects that were not completed in previous years and we're bringing those monies forward. Those monies being $12,000 to address the Eels Lake boat launch and ramp, $20,000 for an electronic LED sign for out front of our Lloyd Watson Center with regards to community programs and events that are taking place, as well as $25,000 coming forward for trail improvements along the Dillman as they relate to the trail species at risk trail improvements. So that's on the revenue side, if there's anything, or I can jump into expenses.
Any questions? Okay.
When and if the trails technician that was discussed in the past, when are we going to be dealing with that? Is that in our future?
Yes, actually, we have our trails coordinator position encapsulated in our budget right now. We do have a draft job description for the trails coordinator drafted and is ready to be sent off to our pay equity to have it reviewed so that we can get it released sooner rather than later.
Other questions, Cease?
I was going to bring this up as a post, we reviewed it, but again, since it's already just been brought up now, we have that master trails plan, which we're trying to talk about. And trails kind of sort of fit into two categories. One, trails that exist and need to be maintained. And two, trails that we would like to develop, but we're not really sure where we're going with that for 101 reasons. So in some cases, I think it's important that we have to wait for some kind of a trails coordinator to come together, especially when you're developing new ones. But I don't see the need to have that person in place to just maintain things that we already have. Because unless this guy's going to start changing things, we're probably going to continue with the IBNO trail, with the Parkwood Trail and many other items that we're going to be dealing with. So have we already built that kind of stuff into the overall plan? And if so, is there a way we could get some kind of a report that give us an overview of where are we going with trails? Like what exactly it is that we plan going forward? And I understand that the new person coming on board will be included in that, but I'm not sure it's necessary for that particular person to be on board before we start deciding what we want to do with not only the program, but with that particular person. So I'm kind of hoping that sometime in the next couple of months, we get an overview of where are we going and the position of that, the positioning of that particular person within the program. Would it be possible, say, in the next couple of months, to get a report identifying what are we going to do?
Yes, absolutely. I think that is something that's very achievable. I think council will also understand too that some of what the infrastructure that we currently have now, sometimes there are things that pop up that we need to deal with some of what we already have. So before we, leap before we run and start getting into new projects, let's make sure the infrastructure that we have is sound and we can able to be move forward with that. So certainly something that we can
Yeah.
discuss.
That was my point, was that before we expand, we need to repair, consolidate what we already have, so that when we take an inventory, we know what we can count and what condition it's particularly in. So we can look forward to that sometime. Do I want to push it in April perhaps? Or earlier? I'm pushing.
I I will see it at the will of council and what availability we have to see if I can. I don't know if I can make April work. But we will do our best.
Sounds like a commitment. Okay, Brett?
Moving into the expense side, again, so on the Parks and Rec, expense side, your wages, for Parks and Recreation, we have our 3.5% increase. Again, wages this year includes the money for the inclusion of the Trails Coordinator position as previously approved by council. These wages also include wages for 2 summer students that assist in our Parks and Recreation, as well as our swim program staff. We've already touched on the decreases to our group benefits as well as our general insurance increases. We have increased our supplies accounts for all centers and arenas. We have seen, because of the uptick in our arena and center usage, it also means we need to purchase more supplies in order to do cleaning. We have also increased the arena hydro account. So the more that you utilize something, the more it costs to operate. So we have increased our hydro amount in 2026 as well, just to address the operating expenses for hydro. In our property repair accounts for the centers, libraries, arenas, and docks, we have included monies this year for new kitchen countertops and new ceiling tiles at the Lloyd Watson Municipal Center with regards to the kitchen. We are also anticipating to build a new dock for Stormy Lake. We're going to be doing some potential mold cleanup or investigation just over at the curling club with it in the basement. It's a little dry or it's damp down in the basement. We're going to do some work to see what is down there. We're also going to be putting up some eaves trough at the pool. The eaves trough's already been purchased. It's just putting it up. And also replacing electric heaters that are in the Cardiff Library. Those heaters are rather old, so we're going to purchase some new ones. They're a little more energy efficient to help try to cut down on our hydro usage. Our funds for Canada Day are again offset by the grant revenues that will hopefully be successful in receiving this year. In our other trail costs account, the amount is remaining the same at 25, but this account also is where we include our donation monies to both the Halliburton and the North Hastings Fish Hatchery. We typically do a $5,000 donation each year to those groups. And then the remaining monies will be trail initiatives derived from the Trail Strategy Initiative that we look to have implemented by the Trails Coordinator. On the transfer to reserve side of things, we do have 25,000 for future condenser and compressor replacement at the Keith Tallman Memorial Arena. $25,000 to address a generator replacement for here at the Lloyd Watson Center, as this is utilized as an emergency shelter in the event of an emergency. We're looking to put 5,000 away towards a future lawnmower replacement, as well as 10,000 for a future pickup replacement and 10,000 for future side-by-side replacement. And through our capital forecasting discussions, the projects that we're looking to include for 2026 includes the municipal office and Lloyd Watson roof repair at 22,000. We're looking to do the Hurley Park Pavilion drawings and the poured concrete slab. So that will be the addition of the pavilion over at Hurley Park. looking to purchase a new tandem axle trailer for the department in order to be able to carry their equipment, and also if they have topsoil and they need to dump it a little bit easier for the staff. 12,000 to do the Eels Lake boat ramp and boat launch project. 20,000 for the electronic sign. 50,000 to do the Trailmaster improvements along Dillman, and 89,000 to be able to purchase and install the new dehumidifier equipment that's required for the Keith Tallman Memorial Arena.
Okay, questions? Ken?
If my mind is working correctly, we at some time in the past had discussed sharing of the boat ramp on Eels Lake, or the possibility of approaching North Kawartha. Did we ever follow up on that?
No, when we didn't get the permit in time for the fall last year, we just kind of were waiting until we got the permit. So it's something we're going to be following up with in the spring of this year to see if there is the possibility for a potential shared service for that.
Angela?
Just getting back to Phil, I was just gonna ask you to answer that, but permit did not come in. So when were we going to approach that project? Or even
We won't be able to do it in the spring because of the fish. It's with regards to when you're going to be able, you can't do any in-water work until after July, I believe the permit says. And then obviously you don't want to be doing it in July during the summer months when the water's high. Again, so I believe Jim's approach is to wait until the fall when, again, water levels are low. And then we can get in there and get the pad pulled out. In discussion with Jim, he would also like to send out letters ahead of time to those that are on Eels Lake, similar to we have already the addresses put together from our septic maintenance program, just advising that this work is coming. So if anyone could pull their boats out, prior to the Thanksgiving weekend, so we can get that done, just to give everyone a heads up that it is coming, so there's no surprises.
Will that notification initiative be extended to the North Kawartha property owners there as well, I would hope?
We can certainly advise North Kawartha of this work transpiring, and then we can have those discussions with them as well, how they'd like, is it easier for us to just pass on the information, seeing as they have their address information and sending that information to their residents, or how they would like to do it, and we'll have those discussions with North Kawartha.
Any other questions? Cease?
Yeah, well, one of the things that I don't know if we still do it, so I think annually there was a inventory taken at the beach. And we said that we got identifying what we have in terms of equipment, pencils, whatever it is that we need to pull stuff off, which could include tables, could include anything. First question would be, so the first one is, are we still doing with that, which would be good if why we could identify things like the need for a repair system for the faucet center, which at the moment we don't have. So is it something that we plan on doing? If so, or is it already done? And has it been included in the operating budget for the community centers in 2026? And could it be possible for us to see the evaluation of the four community centers to determine, in the opinion of staff, what's needed, so that we can now look at that with relation to the needs of the community and determine whether that is in sync.
So it is my understanding that the property supervisor and the department does still do an assessment, like they go through and see what we have. Now, I would have to wait for Jim to come back to see when this was last done. But on the budgetary side of things, we do have monies allocated if any sort of, additional, cutlery or dishware was required. We do have monies available for that. And I can certainly go back to Jim and ask that he provide some updates regarding what's at each hall and if there are things that are missing.
Because again, you're looking at things like coffee makers, which are a pain to sit down, and we have about 8 of them in the McCausland Center. I don't know if any of them work or not, but the idea would be that if we found out that they did not work, they should be removed, and then we know exactly what we're dealing with. It would be nice to be able to have that list, because then at the end of the day, when we're talking to not just, well, for anybody who's renting the place would know what's available to them. Now, there may or may not be a premium depending on what it is that they want to use. But it certainly would be an advantage to the community groups that are there on a regular basis, so that they would be able to know if they have to bring in additional equipment for anything, they know exactly what it is they need to do. So I was wondering, before the season starts in the 2026 summer season, which is already kind of sort of started now, if we could get that list and get an idea of where we are, because again, coffee makers are extremely frustrating when you plug one in and you wait 2.5 hours and find out it doesn't work. Right? Answer?
So when Jim goes to these community centers and to get this information, is he communicating with the user groups as to maybe how is he gonna know if the coffee maker's not working, or if it needs silverware? So like, what kind of a program does he have going?
And you'll have to excuse my ignorance. I'd have to ask Jim more about how his maintenance program, how he looks after that. It would be better answered by him. So I might follow up with him and then have him address that at his next monthly report. We do hope though that any groups that utilize the center, if they do come across a piece of equipment that either isn't working, or that they do let us know so that we can be made aware of it, because nothing worse than, putting something back in the closet, not realizing it's no longer working, thinking it's working, and then going to utilize it, it's not there.
Okay, any other questions? Cease?
Yeah, this is not related to community centers now, but we suffer from a lot of washouts at our boat launches, and they're kind of like a pain in the sit down. We're getting a lot of complaints from our various cottage associations and the general public that they can't seem to be able to get their boats in or out of any given particular one. We've had some serious challenges at Pine Lake in Gooderham, or the Gooderham Lake, and we've had them in other places as well, Stormy being another one, and also Billings. Has that evaluation already been done? Because it would have been great to have done it in the fall so that we would know what's going on. And if we did, are there monies in here to address those kind of issues that we'd be able to repair them? Again, we got a problem because the high water is going to be the highest when the people need it the most. I'm wondering what we can do there, because if it has to be done in the fall, then it may or may not be an option for the spring to do the repairs. So I was wondering if we could get a report that identifies the status of our boat launches and what needs to be done on some of them to bring them up to minimum requirements, but also talk to the lake associations and determine what kind of vessels do they have coming in and out of these things. And does the boat launch needs to be addressed to deal with them? On the other hand, is it something that we just physically could not do? Somebody wants to bring a 40-foot vehicle into their water vehicle that is 14 feet wide and requires a special ramp. Well, don't put it on your lake, because we ain't going there, if you know what I mean. So, but on the other case, there's others that have situations where the people are complaining that they're always driving off to the side, where they're getting stuck. And so it would be nice to be able to get that information in some kind of a report.
Other questions? Not, moving on, Brittany.
Okay. I believe we're now moving into planning and zoning. So on the planning and zoning side of things, for the revenue, for planning revenue, it will remain the same in 2026 as it did in 25. The monies that are coming in are in relation to our rezoning applications and any minor variance applications that council deals with. We are looking at a transfer from reserve of 37,500, and that's towards an official plan amendment Or there's also the discussion right now of the Consolidated Official Plan project, if approved through Service Delivery Review. So we already have those monies raised and available. So if whichever direction that we go with that, we have the monies available. We would also need to complete a zoning bylaw housekeeping update once that official plan amendment is completed. Should note, the official plan update is a rather lengthy and long process that would transpire, but looking to see to get that work started in 26. On the expense side, our 3.5% increase, and that includes the salaries for 2 planning departmental staff. We have our group benefit decrease as well as our general insurance increase of 68%. And as I previously mentioned, the consolidated OP update or the official plan update, including our zoning bylaw housekeeping update. Council will note that our IT costs are slightly higher in 2026 than they were in 25. And the reason for this increase is due to the fact this includes the municipality's portion of the new county GIS technologist position that was approved by county. So it's now a charge back to the municipality in the amount of $11,138. So 50% is being funded by the county, and the remainder of the position is being funded by Minden Hills, ourselves, and Algonquin Highlands. It also includes an additional $5,000 towards the TerraNet subscription, which our planning staff utilize for parcel identification. And on the contributions to reserve side, we're looking at a $10,000 for our comprehensive zoning bylaw to making those maps a little bit more interactive and updated.
Thank you. Any questions? Pretty straightforward. Cease.
So one of the things, I don't know if I missed it, I apologize because I had to step out. Did we talk about the junior planner and the replacement of the junior planner?
Just that we have monies included for 2 salaries at this time.
Okay, so that's been included and we're pursuing it as we speak.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so that's kind of like my big question.
Sure. Thank you. Other questions? Okay, Britt.
And then the last piece before we get into our summary and wrap up is just with regards to our economic development side of things. So on the revenue side for economic development, we're looking at a transfer from reserve of $12,500. Those are for unused monies allocated to the cost of the required survey work that we need to do on our mineral lease agreements from the province. It also includes an additional $950 that we raised last year for an updated photo opportunity sign, which unfortunately didn't get completed in 25, so we're looking to do that in 26. On the expense side, we have our negotiated wage increase, and those salaries include your part-time economic development coordinator, as well as assistants in the information center during the summer months. We have our general insurance increase of 6 to 8%, and our economic development advertising account is slightly up this year in order to update the photo op sign. We're looking at getting some new rack cards printed and into production, as well as last year we participated in the Burford Mega Geocaching event, and this year we've included those costs in the budget this year as well to attend, as it really got some great attention and got the Highlands East geocache out there. We have included the monies for the mineral claims to be surveyed and any additional costs for the leases and fees. The leases are currently under negotiation with the province, and so this survey work is required in order to keep those leases intact. For the Recreation and Culture Committee expenses, those are related to our Canada Day expenditures when we do our annual Canada Day. We're also looking at spending a little bit of money for some community townscaping initiatives, whether that be flowers or beautification. And also 2026 marks our 25th anniversary this year, so we thought it might be a nice idea to celebrate Highlands East 25th anniversary. How we are going to do that remains to be seen, but there's quite a few different opportunities to celebrate the achievement. And so we just thought we'd put some monies in for this year's opportunities.
Right? Questions, comments, cease.
Well, first off, I think that's awesome. So I'm going to jump to the last thing first. Celebrating 25 years in this world of being around is an important thing. Unfortunately, we're already in February of that year. So what have you got in mind for how we can work this? Obviously, we should make an adjustment to our website to recognize it there, whether we do it in the banner or whether we do it in something. It should be done. And that, in my opinion, that should be done ASAP. So that we can start letting people know we've been around for 25 years. But what other stuff do you see as an opportunity? Because it's a big deal.
Yeah, and I'd like to have some further conversations with our economic development coordinator with regards to some ideas and opportunities. Especially, it would be nice to get the community involved in celebrating some of this achievement. I did discuss with Mayor kind of talked about a couple of different ideas that we maybe had and whether or not, we look at trying to do a photo opportunity where people submit their photos from the past 25 years. Like, it's really interesting to see where we started, where we became Highlands East to where we are now and the changes that have come with it. And whether or not, I think Mayor and I discussed, even the idea of a time capsule or something to that effect, and whether we do some slight celebration at Hurley Park. But there are endless opportunities. I really love to put it to our economic development coordinator to put some thought to it. One of the other ideas I thought might be interesting is to incorporate, and I haven't talked with her yet about this, maybe a specific cache in the geocaching circuit this year, specific to 25 years of Highlands East to celebrate, and seeing how we can incorporate that as well.
Cease.
Just another thought, staying on that same thought pattern. The one thing that we have continued to do, and I'd like to see us expand it a bit more, is once upon a time, I think it was when Canada turned 150, but I could be wrong. We had, as part of Canada Day, something that went across the entire municipality. We had stuff going everywhere. The idea of what you're talking about to show where we have come in the 25 years to me is absolutely awesome. In terms of a venue that would make that really an opportunity for people to come and see, I would suggest that we look at a Canada Day development that would enable us to, because all of our communities partake in that, and to put it under some kind of a municipal coordinated effort, to me would be a really good thing. So you could do the same thing, start in Cardiff and go all the way around. But now we would focus not only on Canada Day itself, but on the whole history of Highlands East. That's the other thing I don't know, and it's too bad we're not only talking about it now, is I know that when you start talking about grants, there are grants available for certain events that take place. And I think 25 years in a municipality or any 25-year increment is a good thing. Would it be too late for us to look at potential grants that might be available? I know that when you're looking at the Canada Day grant, there used to be, and I don't know whether it is now, a section in there that said, in addition to Canada, here is what we're celebrating, and you could qualify for additional monies depending on what it was. Do you know of anything like that, or is that something we're going to investigate?
We would have to do some further investigation as to what's available for any sort of funding opportunities. But again, staff are pretty quick to, as they come across our desks, to see if we have projects that we can utilize for it. So we'll certainly keep our eyes out for anything that pops up.
Cease.
So have we got a rough number that we're shooting at here? Like, hopefully it's gonna be more than $20. So are we looking at a couple of thousand? Are we looking at 5,000? Do we have any idea of the kind of money that we want to invest in celebrating our 25th birthday?
We have actually within the budget document, we have encapsulated a couple of $1,000s available to us to utilize however we see fit, and in whatever fashion council would like to do that celebration.
Angela?
I like the idea of just like what we do for Canada Day for the 25th. That would be incorporates each one of these communities as uniquely as they are, that brings the municipality as a whole.
Cease?
I think too, that $2,000 is just not gonna cut it. I just don't think we're in that, even remotely in that ballpark. I'd like to see us extend that to at least $5,000. Why? Because it only happens once every 25 years. And so to spend $5,000 on something to me would not be a ridiculous ask, nor would I think our constituents have any problem with accepting the fact that we're doing that, especially if it brings a sense of belonging within the community. And I think it's a good thing. I'm suggesting 5,000. If somebody wants to push it a little higher, I'm fine with that. I know there's going to have to be a ceiling, but I would think 5,000 is the minimum we should look at.
Britt?
Yeah, and that's perfectly fine. We do have, like I said, we have monies allocated for townscaping as well, which we can utilize again towards this event as well. So we've got, I believe, 6,000 for Canada Day and 10,000 with the townscaping, as well as we can utilize any additional funds for the celebration of 25.
Great. Summary?
Yes.
Cease, go ahead.
The summary, there's a couple of things that I would like to just touch on. One of the things that we were talking about was libraries. Somewhere in there was a library section. And there's a report that comes from the library board or from the library itself on a regular basis that identifies the issues that are in our various libraries, depending on what it is and where they are. As a member of the library board, I'm not getting a whole pile of information back as to where we stand on those repairs and opportunities for improvement. Could we end up getting a report coming to council? I'm thinking possibly on a quarterly basis that would identify what the library has identified as challenges and where are we in relation to resolving those challenges. Because I have to account for that at the library board, and most of the time I don't know. Would that be a fair ask?
Yes, I'll ask the property supervisor to make it a note in his monthly reports. We'll say quarterly, any sort of areas where he's identified, where there's been identified concerns and anything we've done to address those.
On page 8, we spoke about the MAT tax, and in 2026, we collected in 2025, we collected $41,000. And we know that year was not complete. It was probably, it reflects maybe half to 3/4 of what we typically would do. Now, I understand that we're trying to be conservative and not go out on a limb. But at the end of the day, we're projecting $40,000 in 2026. It seems to me that if we've gone through all this effort to get where we are, that seems to be a pretty conservative number. So could we possibly have a look at that to determine something that may be more reflective? Something that may add another $10,000 to that revenue if we believe it's there. If we don't believe it's there, then we have a problem because it's cost us $28,000 for the software program that monitors it. And now we're only going to be getting basically 20,000 out of it. So we're running at a loss right from the get-go. So is there something that we can do to adjust that number to make it more reflective, or are we afraid that that's the number?
The 40,000 that is encapsulated in our budget is our portion of MAT tax. The other half of that money goes away to the county. The monies that we're receiving for the STR licensing, the $500 per fee, those monies help go towards offsetting the Granicus subscription. The MAT monies that we raise, council is able to utilize those funds however they see fit. If you wish to put it towards roads projects, you may. If you'd like to put it towards trails, that's at the whim of council. So I am somewhat conservative in our MAT monies, but I think those are appropriate for what our portion of the fees are going to be that we receive in 26.
Go ahead, Cease.
So what we're saying is in 2025, our portion of the MAT tax was $41,000. Because I'm having a problem understanding what you're saying. Because if it's $41,000, then that's a good thing. But if it's half of that, which is $20,000, that does not cover the administrative cost of collecting it. And if we're projecting that in 2026, the overall collection is $40,000, of which we get 20, it puts us in a pretty difficult position to justify the whole thing.
Yeah, so the MAP monies that we received, that we generated in 25 was that $41,000 mark. Half of 41 will go to the county, so we really only are keeping about $26,000. So if we raise $80,000 in MAP, I'm hopeful that our portion of those budgeted monies would be 40 this year.
I'm going to bring this up after the summary is completed and we can kind of sort of talk about it a bit more then, if you don't mind.
Yeah, that's fine.
Great. All right. Summary?
Okay, so in summary for today, just for the 2026 draft budget. So overall, we're seeing an increase from the 2025 budget to 2026. Overall is an increase of $477,666, which equates to a 5.96% municipal tax rate increase. So on the screen for council, I have just shown what the impact is on $100,000. So between our increase this year in tax rate and last year's tax rate, it's a difference of $34.95 on $100,000 of assessment. So for every $100,000 your house is assessed, your municipal taxes will increase $34.95. A 1% tax rate, just for council's information, a 1% tax rate increase is the equivalent of $79,967. So 1% on the levy is almost the equivalent of $80,000. So give or take in the budget. So if we add 80,000, that's an additional percent. You remove 80, it's reducing it down by a percentage. So as it is presented today, I'm happy to bring forward a finalized version come March, or if there are changes that council wishes from today, we can take that back and bring it forward in March. Just whatever the direction is of council with regards to your comfortable, how comfortable you are with the draft as presented today.
Thanks, Britt. Question, Cease, you said you had one?
Yeah, I got a couple of things that I wanted to bring up in relation to where we are. These are just mine, if nobody else. One of the things that concerned me was the overall format of what we received this year. I found it very difficult to work with, in the sense that when I tried to work with it on my computer, the information regarding the statistics and dollars is on one page, and then the notes are on another page. And it was almost impossible to join them together. So I ended up having to print them all off and tape them together in order to so I could actually follow what it was we were doing. And so at the end of the day, and that took me over an hour to just print it, stick it together and figure out what we're doing. If we're going to get a final version of this thing, can we kind of sort of get it all together? Like, is there a way we can create a format that we can actually see both the numbers and the notes cohesively side by each, so that we can deal with that? And not only that, but a lot of the notes were truncated because even with the second page, there wasn't enough room to print them all. Okay, so and the way that we are laying out the budget in terms of each department talking about it, which is a good thing. I have no problem with that. But it jumps all around when you're looking at the overall, trying to track it on the actual numbers themselves. We're moving from one piece of the budget document to another. And so when you're making notes to ask questions, you're kind of not showing where you're supposed to go. And it would be a whole lot easier if we could figure out a way to resolve that, so that when staff is presenting something, it doesn't matter which department, it's all consolidated, and yet when we get it, it's in 5 different places. And it's hard for us to translate that. So is it something that we can deal with and before we make a final vote on it and kind of get an idea where the hell are we? That's one of my questions.
Did you want to respond to that?
Yeah, I mean, we can certainly, if there's a simple, more simplistic way for council to be able to review the information, I can, when we bring the final version back, it will be a little bit more of a cohesive document, and and I can take those suggestions into consideration for ease for council.
See, an example you could get is just to maybe make it simpler is turn it into a landscape document printed out on 8.5 by 14. So now you would end up a simple solution is that, so that we could be able to pick one up or get it some way, and it would all be on one page. I know it would take, a slightly different breakdown on what goes on a given page, but it would make it simpler for us to follow. Just saying. The last year, during our strategic planning session, we talk about the opportunity to establish select advisory committees to deal with specific focus points. An example would be a trails committee that would be able to be used. I do not see anything in the budget that kind of sort of reflects anything in that particular area. So it would assume from that there will be no advisory committees going forward in 2026. I'm kind of not in favor of that at all, because I think there's going to be situations where we're going to be able to get better input for our staff if we had input from those people who have a genuine interest in a specific subject. Example could be in the way that we deal with and handle our community centers, the way that we handle the overall idea of trails. Those are the two that come to my attention. And so I'm kind of hoping that somewhere along the line, we start to look at that. Now, if that deals with additional costs, because in the past we had budgets for 5 different committees. I don't know where those budgets ended up and how much is in them, but it sounds to me like we could take that money and reappropriate it into areas where we can justify the costs. And so I'm really asking that we seriously look at it and look at where we could be going forward. The other area that we needed to talk about was the overall SDR program. I was trying to follow it in this budget, and it was almost impossible to follow because it's subdivided into multiple jurisdictions within the budget, and there's no consolidated statement of what is it doing for us. Example could be an income statement identifying income or reserve, the amount of money we take in versus the money we pay out. I don't see that anywhere as a standalone entity. We need to know what that is, because the people that are on the SDR operators list are asking for something like that. Where are we? Is this thing paying off? And we're not getting that, and we can't present it to them because I don't know. And I can't send them all this stuff and hope they can figure it out, because I can't. And so I would like to have some kind of a report done on whatever it makes sense. Possibly monthly would be not asking, but quarterly and at minimum semi-annually. That would be able to give us a picture of where are we with relation to the SDR program, and who's responsible for it. Like, it seems to me that we've got it under the jurisdiction of the bylaw enforcement, but is that the right place for it? To me, that does not make sense. They are enforcement people. They are not strategic planning people. That's not their job. So that's one. When we look at the overall strategic plan itself, whenever I've done a budget, I've always been able to take the budget numbers and apply it to the operation of a company. To do that, you must have an idea of where are you going before the year starts. We do not have that. We have a budget that basically says, here is what we ran into in the past. Based on that, here's kind of sort of what we think we're going to be able to do in the future. And from that, here's the budget that we're going to be generating. But if we were to look at the overall strategic plan and look at it from the point of view of going from a strategic plan as we've got it to a costed strategic operating plan, which now identifies not only the objectives that we want to do in terms of what's already stated in the plan, but how are we going to contribute to that at the beginning of the year? So what have we got it on the books that we want to do, and we can't do it in 2026 because 26 is already 2 months in. But for 2027, I'd like to see that change so that when we put our strategic plan review in the fall, that part of that is establishing not just, oh gosh, we did a good bunch of good things and it resulted in contributing to these particular aspects of the strategic plan, but to sit down and identify what is it in the strategic plan that we want to deal with. Put together an overall program of how we're going to achieve it, cost it, and otherwise put some kind of milestones on being able to do that. And so I'm kind of concerned about that. It's a major issue for me because it's hard to identify what you're going to spend if you don't know where you're going. All you know is where you've been. You don't know where you're going. And I appreciate that our staff is doing its best to project. But that's while they're at war. You don't plan for a war when you're in it. You plan for a war before it starts. So I'm kind of hoping that we can deal with that. Those are the main issues that in my mind I'd like to get dealt with. Again, I'm not criticizing the amount of money that we've put in the budget. I think what you've done is excellent. It's just that when I'm trying to sell that to the public, it's a bugger of a time to explain it to them.
Fair enough. Rich got that documented. Any other comments, concerns? If not, anything else, Britt?
Just for clarity's purposes, is there anything with regards to the way it's presented today that council's not comfortable with dollar-wise that you'd like readjusted, or are you comfortable with the figures presented to you? Just so I know going back if there's any changes to be made.
I think she's kind of summed that up and fine with that part of it. I am.
The only adjustment is that we talked about possibly increasing the budget for the 25th anniversary. So I don't know if that's needs to have an amendment. It seems to me that it might, but it's not a lot of money, so I can't see it being an issue.
And that's an easy enough. We have some monies, you will kind of attributed to it with regards to some of our previous committees and things like such as that. So if we need to readdress, I could always bring monies forward for that, but I'll certainly address it in the March.
That would bring up another quote. What are we doing with the reserve monies that were for the 5 original advisory committees? Because it appears that they no longer exist. And if new advisory committees are formed, they certainly won't be the same ones as we had before. I don't particularly like the idea of just taking that, freeing the money up and use it wherever we want. I think I'd like to before make a judgment on what are we going to do with advisory committees in 2026. And so that we don't end up with a budgetary challenge in how to pay for it, the reserves that are in those 5 original accounts can be used to consolidate into whatever we decide we're going to do. So I'm a little uncomfortable to watch it drain out in a non-controlled way. So to just pull something from a given budget for a defunct advisory committee, and then we start to look at advisory committees and find out, oh my God, we got no money left. I would really have a problem with that until we know what we're doing with advisory committees going forward.
And that's perfectly understandable. The monies that are been attributed to the advisory committees are in their specific reserves to be utilized at a later date if in the event committees ever arose again. And then we could utilize those monies before starting to raise new tax dollars. We would utilize those funds first before raising more tax dollars if committees is something council is looking at wanting to get into again. Maybe not in 26, but in future years. But that's
Just 2 other issues that come to my mind. One, it would be nice to know too, because I'm a great supporter of the Hurley Park project. I really am. And so could we get a report that's generated to us as and when changes are made that would identify what did we originally plan for Hurley Park? Where are we now? And where do we go? And how much do we want to get accomplished in whatever period of time? The bad news with the Hurley Park situation, Mother Nature kind of controls a lot of stuff. So what we plan on doing at the first of the year doesn't necessarily materialize at the end of the year. And the other thing that's not in here is, and I know we're in the process of trying to sort this out, is the overall, how are we going to treat our volunteer groups? And are we going to put together some kind of a program that would enable them to do that? Because we basically said that we would try to make things simpler for it, in terms of both processes to operate and in funding opportunities to simplify and make the operation of the volunteer groups more cost effective. Again, you know, are we going to be using reserves from defunct committees to fund these kind of objectives? And if the answer to that is yes, I don't have a problem with it because it's being used for the intention of what it's being used for. But can we also get a report there identifying where are we? Because we're talking about having meetings to find out what's going on. We're talking about getting feedback. And I understand there's a program in place. I got that. But when you're sitting talking to them, there's no, where are we going from here? And have we got there yet? So could we possibly get a report identifying what we're doing, what we think we're going to be doing, and where are we at this point in time?
Yes, I think once we follow up with the actual community groups and have our sit-down meeting and go over some of their concerns that were raised and vice versa, I think that will help. And then following that meeting, we would then present to council an update from that meeting so that council's fully aware of what transpired and what came out of the meeting and what improvements we can see going forward.
Because again, we were talking about the whole concept of it's necessary to have liabilities covered off. But in the point of view of the volunteer groups, it's annoyance costs, $2 for this and $4 for that. And we already had committees that were put together with budgets that had that capability, which are currently in reserve. So I'm kind of hoping that part of that overall program is to determine how we can simplify it for them. It should not affect the operating budget because we're not talking about big numbers, but it would be able to make it much more clear, and it wouldn't affect anything financially as far as I could see.
Okay, anything else? Confirmation about?
The bylaw number 2026-22 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting of February 17th, 2026 be received, approved, and enacted.
Someone move. Councilor McKenzie, second by Councilor Lewis. All in favor? It's carried. Adjournment.
The council adjourned the February 17th meeting at 12:35 p.m. and to meet again on March 10th, 2026 at 9:30 a.m. for the regular meeting of council.
Have someone move. Deputy Mayor Ryle, second by Councilor Strong. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Thank you, council. Thank you, staff.